Good evening and welcome to the Jinn&Tonic show on Friday, the 18th of May, 2018. I want to welcome my co-host, Stop Spamming, and another gentleman that joined us last time on Friday, the 18th of May, 2018. Let me just turn someone off here. I can hear myself in the background there. Oh, he's disappeared. Hopefully he'll come back again. Hey, Stops, good evening. How are you?
Well. Excellent.
You were saying you were busy, or you were not busy this weekend? This week, I should say.
No, I was. Well, no, I wasn't. I was not busy working. I was busy playing, having fun, going out with friends and shit. Didn't have any time for Islam.
Cool. Welcome, G25. You were with us last week in the after show, and you thought maybe you could share some things. I know you haven't been on very often, but welcome to the panel. Hopefully you can share a few thoughts. How are you this evening?
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Doc. Hi. I'm doing good today. How are you guys?
Yes, all good, thank you. All good. So what we'll do first, I think, I have sent the link to a couple of other people, including Abu, so maybe he'll join us. And then Kenny Bauer, the Texas Muslim, has requested to join and perhaps talk about what we talked about last week. We didn't get a chance to, so he may join us later on. I said to him to let me know on Facebook a little bit later. I haven't got too many crazy comments, so we'll just do a couple of them here, and then we'll move on and chat about Ramadan. A little bit about Sops will give us a little bit of information on it, and then perhaps we can talk about, you know, what is its effects? What is the effects of Ramadan? So let me start with this one. So this was a comment on the Ali Dawah video where I basically said, there's a video with Ali Dawah and Steve is basically refuting Ali Dawah's, you know, free speech nonsense. So let me just make sure. So this, I said basically that Steve said, revealed Ali Dawah's logic, faulty logic, and sent him on his way. And this guy said, if I didn't know you, reading your comments would lead me to the conclusion that a hormonally imbalanced teenage girl was behind the comments. And then I replied, you sure that's not projection? What reasons do you have for making that statement? Do you think Ali's logic is not faulty? And then a little bit further down, this was his response. Fella, it's obvious you're seething with hate for Muslims. Too obvious not only in your facial expressions, but rather more evident in the nuance of all your comments derogatory to Islam and Muslims, including your Jinn&Tonic's satire BS contributions. So just remember what I asked here. What's your reasons for making that statement, that this is a girl? Or what was the statement? Exactly, the statement was hormonally imbalanced teenage girl. And so this is the sort of response you get. And again, you know, clearly this is not all Muslims, but is this the sort of representation? This person is very likely an Ali Dawah type follower, and this is the sort of response you'd get from Ali Dawah. In other words, no response. It's obvious. That's the sort of response you get. You're seething with hate. This is the typical Ali Dawah and this sort of Muslim behavior. Hey, if you critique Islam quite bluntly or fiercely or whatever the case is, then you're seething with hate. And it's just obvious. It's just obvious. I'm not going to give any reasons other than it's obvious. This is the level of intellect or lack thereof that sometimes one is forced to confront.
It's only entertainment.
Yes, yeah, you can't really take it seriously. Bless him. And then just one other long one here, which was interesting. So All Truth Revealed is Shabir Yusuf's channel. And he or whoever this person is responded on our Jinn&Tonic show where we critiqued that video with the vegan. So we did a long critique. For those who haven't watched, go back and have a look. We did a critique of this conversation. And so this person, whether it's Shabir or somebody else, said, PYBE, peace be upon you, blah, blah, blah. Tut. Rob, we note that you referred to the exchange between the vegan and ATR, All Truth Revealed. I guess Shabir would probably have been a better way to put it, in the comment section, and you only mentioned the exchange to the extent that it may have favored your position. It comes as no surprise because atheism allows one to act as one would, as one may without any issue. And I just responded,
allows one to act as one may one.
Yes, I had to read that a few times. Obviously not entirely coherent. Somebody made it.
No, these guys always try and sound like high and mighty, you know? Like really in a roundabout way, all posh and everything. And this is what happens.
exactly. You make a mistake there. You confuse yourself sometimes. And I replied, a rather a valueless statement. Can you or Shabir actually make a substantive point?
Exactly.
Point out where I went wrong and why. Then provide your side and the reasons to support it. I will wait.
Yeah.
And in response, please do attempt to put aside emotions and respond to the comment rationally. We stated that you may have only mentioned the exchange of comments to suit your agenda, and it seems that your response is not denying, it confirms our view. So I thought, okay, let me try a little bit of this myself. So I did a little bit of this myself with this language pattern. You can't not have understood what I meant, especially since the brevity of my multiple responses was the opposite of what was forthcoming in the video and in your comments. The fact that your continued failure to address my question or put forward any substantive points confirms my view, and you will have to agree with me. And you will have to agree with me that your view remains rebutted. Thought I'd try a few of Shabir things. Can you see now? I'm obviously doing this, and can you see how, much sophistry and obscurantism when you try? It's not that difficult, but it doesn't help in any way. So I thought I'd do a bit of that. And then we had some mindless person who can't even type there. Thank you, bro. Sublime work to mock sordid wisdom to atheist cesspit. Okay, whatever the hell that means. And then he replied, and no response to our initial contention. We are aware that all you can do is rely on verbose statements with no substance, no irony, but we are also aware that you will avoid at all costs to respond to what we sought. I just think that's beautiful. You rely on verbose statements. The irony of the probably of the year. So I just play back to them what they do, and voila. He actually noticed that it was verbose statements with no substance. Now, if only he could put up a mirror, whoever this person is. I just thought that was gold.
In the chat, Rafa is doing this. Peace be with you. Respectfully, I think you are wrong. Please provide the evidence to support your claim. I await your response. Because this is the standard thing.
Otherwise, without a response, you'll have to agree with us that our position remains strong in your position, that sort of thing. So there we go. I just thought that was hilarious. I do think so, especially when I thought, okay, I'll use this verbose language.
You're very good at this, let me tell you.
Yeah,
I
well,
won't
I've done a
be
bit
able
of
to
that,
do this.
NLP type stuff where you can use that language. But it was ironic that whoever it was that responded with it, Shabir or one of his cohorts, responded.
But it was verbose. I mean, really. I mean, this put you on the wrong track. I mean, this sorted you out because it was verbose.
Yes, not that they're going to put forward any argument, of course, and that's the entire purpose, isn't it? The entire purpose is to just, have you contend a point that wasn't made or was half made or whatever the case is, and not actually ever make a point of their own. G25, I don't know if you've seen that before or you saw the show where we did with Shabir. If you have or if you haven't, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, can I agree? But one thing you always sort of think is, wouldn't it be great if users had to be authenticated when they comment so you could see exactly who it is? Because, I think we all suspect that is Shabir that may have written that,
Yes, it's quite possible. Or he's got one or two of his colleagues that are doing it, because they say, I mean, again, maybe people do talk like that as if they're the third person. I wouldn't say on my own channel, hey, you've got to go and, Rob would have said this. I would say, hey, I'm Rob, or whatever the case is. I wouldn't refer to somebody else. So, yeah, it could be Shabir talking in the third person, or could be one of his people. But whoever it is, they seem to have the same idea of just not actually responding and using verbose language. It's pointed out or played back to them, then suddenly it is verbose.
Yeah.
I just appreciated the fact that that person noted the verboseness of the statement. Classic. By the way, if you're watching, please thumbs up the channel. There's 32 people watching. If you're enjoying what we're doing and so forth, thumbs up. If you thumbs down, then tell us why. If you're in the comments, if you're a viewer or a commenter and you want to join the show, then please do feel free to let me know. As I say, we may have a Muslim on a little bit later on this afternoon or evening for us here. So we'll see if that happens.
Is that the same guy that was supposed to be debating with Abdullah Samir, the Canadian guy?
No.
Yeah. No. Same guy.
What?
Yeah,
Now, hang on. Are we talking about this funny Nadia guy?
No. Kenny Bauer, I think it is.
Oh, I thought that he was supposed to be with Abdullah Samir.
No, he was supposed to.
Not,
he was
not
supposed to debate with him.
the Nadia guy.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not following that so much. I do see Paul Williams in the chat there. So hey, Paul, welcome. If you want to join, then you're welcome to do so as well. I'll just point out a couple of things here as well, just since Paul's in here and I've seen some of the Twitter feed. Paul's taken a stance, which I appreciate. We can disagree on everything, and that's fine. But he has taken a stance against people like Hamid. He's called out Ali Dawa as well for his sort of behavior and that sort of stuff. So, and for those who don't know, Hamid did a live stream recently, and as far as we can tell, he's got a case pending, or according to him, he was asked by the police for his side of the story, but in any case, he's not going to be back at Speaker's Corner for some time, which we can all hope that is permanent. And so Paul's been speaking out, and obviously has had some, flack from these sort of people. Like Stops and I can disagree. If I say something wrong, he does, or I see another atheist doing something, we'll disagree. And if we think the person made a point, we'd have to submit. But when it happens, where Paul's calling somebody out, and he used to be all of these guys' best friend, and they would, support him no matter what. Now suddenly, when he calls a few of them out, now he's suddenly, he's not mentally right in the head, and he's had problems in his life. Or, as you've seen with the previous commenter, whenever there's a strong critique of Islam, you're a hate preacher, you're an Islamophobe, or some other, verbose nonsense to, avoid dealing with the point. So, yeah.
Just to get it clear, because I'm not really sure. Is Hamid the guy that, for better word, he wears a tea cozy on his head?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yes.
And is Paul the kind of Muslim guy that was or is gay?
Yes. So Paul's a convert, correct?
Yeah. Oh, that's quite cool.
You would see one with Speaker's Corner, yeah.
Yeah. I'm totally up to speed now. Okay.
Yeah.
And just as an update, because I hear people asking this, no, Nadia has not agreed to have another go. He ran away last week and then sent me an email saying something came up and he couldn't make it. I mean, it was his time he suggested, his everything he suggested, and then he ran. And I just said to him, well, what is the situation now? Are we going to have a chat or not? But he hasn't come back to me. So I think it shows how dishonest he really is when he, as a Muslim, says that non-Muslims run away when he challenges them to have a chat about something regarding, anything in Islam. And then I come to him, I say, well, okay, let's go. Let's have a go. Let's talk about it. And then he is the one running away. So I don't understand what he's trying to do. And let me remind everybody, it's a very, very clear command in the Quran that Muslims, it's the same in Christians, by the way, they also have this in the Bible, that you must go and defend your belief. And the Quran is very nice in this, and it's saying in 16:125, if somebody wants to look it up, that you need to go and discuss your belief, and you need to do it in a very nice way. And this is what most Muslims don't know.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat saying Paul deserves it. He's the real shaitan. So everybody that critiques some of these fundamentalist Islamists is a shaitan, or is not right in the head, or some other, personal attribute for which they have no evidence. And this is the way some of these people supposedly respond. You can't really take them seriously. The sad thing is people like Ali have got 200,000 plus subscribers, and some people, amazingly enough, do take it seriously. So there we go.
And the thing is that I have a lot of problems with what Paul is saying, but not because he's gay or a Muslim or something. It's just that the arguments are stupid, and it's facts. So I don't like the facts, but it's not that I will now attack the person just because the arguments are shit.
And isn't it interesting? I think you and me and G on the panel here, and many of us, are quite happy for him to be gay. If that's his natural state, then
who cares?
Exactly. I'm not going to point that out to people. That's what happened, 50 years ago, whenever, or 20 years ago, whenever it was. That's how people used to behave then. And so to point that out, is just, why would you do that? That's, that is a bigoted statement, because somebody's got a certain way of life. Therefore, there's something wrong with them or that their arguments are poor, that's nonsense. We attempt to at least evaluate the arguments, not who the person is. But if the person continually demonstrates, their lack of, critical thinking or the logic, like Ali Dawa and a few others, then I think we're justified in pointing that out. And we're pointing it out because we have substantive evidence for it, not because we don't like somebody. That's the big difference, I think.
And the thing is, it works both ways. Okay, you can see that Paul, for example, I mean, even though the arguments don't make sense or anything, but from a personal point of view, for the person, Paul, you can see that he takes a stand when it comes to these issues. You can see that from the morality, there's a lot of positive there. So I don't care about the person if I am debating somebody when it comes to issue regarding facts. And this is what people, I think, need to learn, that there is a difference between discussing facts or issues or ideas and attacking the person.
Yeah, somebody's asking, will I be there? Hassan Raswan. Good evening, Hassan. I hope you're well. You're welcome to join if you are available. If you're just listening, that's all good. No, I won't be down. I'm actually doing a juice cleanse this week, so that would not be probably a good idea to come down when I'm not eating much. And it's not because of Ramadan, just in case anybody's asking. It's actually a proper health juice cleanse, i.e., having high quality juices every 4 hours. A, to lose a bit of weight, because I think I put a little bit on, but to be healthy and fit for summer and all that sort of stuff. So no, you can call it my own version, Rob's health fast. But it's not a fast, because I'm not stopping eating. I'm just having the liquid equivalent every 4 hours.
So how long does that last? Like a day, or is it like a week?
I think 7 days straight.
Wow.
I've done it before. So first 2 days mostly, there's a little bit of the body getting used to it. After that, no problems. So as I say, I've done it at least twice before in the last sort of 2 years or maybe 3 years, whatever it is.
But then this is something substantial. This is not this Ramadan dinglong.
No, it's not a don't eat or drink anything. I don't know. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment. But no, it's not a case of depriving myself entirely and then when the sun goes down, eating like a monster. No, it's a healthy way of doing it, which is, reducing the calorie intake, but having it in liquid form, and then still, having it regularly, so the body doesn't try and hold on to stuff. The moment you do it over a prolonged period of time, the body then realizes that it's not getting intake of stuff, and it holds on to certain things.
Exactly. I stopped drinking beer a couple of months ago, and look what happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
All I do is I miss beer.
Yes, for a while, and then you get used to it. After 7 days, you get used to it. So yes, Hassan's saying, yeah, nice to hear. Yeah, if you want to come on, Hassan, just let us know, and you're obviously welcome to join us. So let's move on. I'll keep an eye on Facebook. If anybody wants to join, then just let me know, and you are welcome to. Raj, if you want to join, you can too. You just have to mute yourself when you're not speaking, because you've got a computer that sounds like an aircraft taking off. So Stops, maybe you can just share with us, just give people an idea of Ramadan, what it's about, how did it come about, and then we'll just look at some of the potential effects. I know Muslims obviously feel like it's a great thing, etc., and it's very healthy and all that sort of stuff, which we can touch on later. But just give us the broad underlying of what it's all about.
Well, there's not an awful lot. It's about. It's another idea that they copied from other spiritual religions, from ideologies, from whatever. It's just that it has the Arabic taste to it. In other words, it's the idea is that it's spiritual. The idea is that it's supposed to bring you closer to God. The idea is that by not eating, drinking, and having sex and doing anything that has to do with your intake or whatever of the body, that this is supposed to remind you of what others are feeling, and that you then contemplate life and the meaning of life and everything for a full month. Now, what we need to remember that there's 4 different months, holy months, with different things. I mean, then you have the Hajj month, then you have this, then you have that, and then you have the holidays, and you have all sorts of things. Now, the way that it started might have been something that we need to remember that Islam is Judaism 2.0. Okay, so they They copied the prayers, they copied this, and also the fasting, except they made it more prolonged than the Jews, because the Jews have it, I think, for 3 days, and then they did it for 30. Or maybe it was a misunderstanding, who knows. And they called it fasting, and it has become one of the 5 pillars of Islam, where it's not really fasting, it's just not eating and drinking. And now we come to the problems. Nobody knows when this month Ramadan actually begins. Nobody knows when the day actually begins and when it ends. This is the problem with the vague and ambiguous wording in the Quran. Because like this month, it was supposed to happen on Wednesday, and it didn't. It only happened. No, sorry, it was supposed to happen on Tuesday, and it only happened on Wednesday, because some guy couldn't see the moon. And this is the funny thing is, you have, I mean, this is every year you have the same story, that you have all the different technologies. You have science telling the people, this is when the moon will be visible, this is when it will come around. And then the people say, well, we don't care about science. We want to see the moon come over the horizon. And it didn't happen. Somebody didn't see it. It wasn't high enough. I don't know what happened. And they had to postpone it by a day. But what people don't understand is that there is a difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, even in Saudi Arabia. So it depends on where they position the viewers, the spotters, the moon spotters, whether they will see something or not. They forget that it's the altitude that makes a huge difference. So what they're doing is they're not taking the scientific approach, but they're taking this thing, that the visual perception of the moon needs to be there. And this is always my question. How is this supposed to work? If you're on Mars, how does a Muslim exist outside of Saudi Arabia? It's impossible. Because, and now we have the next level of complexity here, because you're supposed to start fasting when daybreak happens. But now a lot of Muslims, and this is the scholars, have debated over this for 1,000 years now and have never come to a conclusion when this actually is. Is it when the sun rises? Is it when you can see the daylight? Is it when the sun comes over the horizon? What is it? The thing is, what people don't realize is when we see the sun, it's not there yet, because it's it's gravity. It's called gravitational lensing. Okay, so what you can actually do is, because of the gravity of the sun, of Earth, you can see the sun, like I think it's 8.5 minutes or something before it actually comes over the horizon. But we already see the light rays being deflected by the sun. So how do you determine when the day starts? Is it when first daylight, or when it starts getting a bit lighter? Or so nobody knows.
Maybe
So,
it's when the sun first comes over the horizon or something.
exactly, we don't know. And Muslims have been discussing this for 1,000 years and have not come to a decision or conclusion, or have not been able to come to a consensus when this actually is. So you have differences in opinion. Now, the other problem is that if you, for example, are in the Philippines, you have a totally different time zone. And if you are in Norway, you have a problem in itself, because the sun doesn't set or doesn't come up or do anything in summer. So this is a huge mess. I mean, if you are sitting in Medina and you're looking at only one city, then it becomes easy. I mean, remember the Quran, describes Earth as a flat Earth, and then it makes sense. But as soon as you have a sphere, none of this works. None of this makes any sense. And this is the problem that we have in Ramadan, that everything is very highly imprecise. Nobody really knows what they're doing. So everybody is being told, and this is what you're being told as a Muslim, it is something special. Just as Christians are told Christmas is something special. It's the spirit of the festive season and things like that. Other people don't understand it. But the funny thing is, Muslims are told that this is special. Unfortunately, this is being abused, where it used to be that these holy months were for non-fighting, were for people to reflect and to ponder and blah, 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 to go into their own spirituality. It's now being abused as a feat for violence and terror.
I guess, though, that some... Hey, good evening, Steve. Hope you're well.
Good evening, thank you. All good, thank you.
Good. It presumably stops. I mean, most Muslims would say, "Hey, those that are doing the violence, are perverting it." The rest of us are all doing the peaceful. The rest of it, come and eat with us at night time and that sort of stuff. So clearly, there's some people who are doing X, Y, and Z. But again, most Muslims would.
Anyway, so normal Muslims, okay, I'm talking about the majority.
Yeah.
Don't care about any of this. They just want to have this idea, this positive idea. So if you, for example, and I experienced this in Kuala Lumpur when the guys' children have great fun getting up 3 o'clock in the morning, making a hell of a ruckus, waking everybody up to remind people that they need to get up and go and eat something so that they are finished before sunrise. And even Muslims are complaining because in Malaysia, it's not that hard up. Okay, people don't really fast anymore. And then this is now the thing that they have stopped the boys doing this and telling them, listen, shut up, I want to sleep. I don't care about this. I'm having breakfast as usual. So reality is a little bit different than what the spirituality is dictating. Okay, so the way Ramadan works is that as the moon approaches the first crescent, that's the beginning of Ramadan, the 9th month in the calendar. Islamic calendar is based on the moon, and it lasts for the duration for the 4 weeks. And then when the moon, is it waxing or waning? I never know. When it disappears again, then it's the end of Ramadan. And again, the last viewing again is what is happening. This is the theoretical idea. And then it's just during the day, no intake of food or no intake whatsoever. The other thing is that this is the funny thing, is that even a 24-hour McDonald's will close during the day, and they will only close 7 o'clock in the evening. They will only open 7 o'clock in the evening, and then they will close again 7 o'clock in the morning. And the funny thing is that, I mean, I had to go, like Carrefour, for example, they sell sandwiches, they sell salad, they sell fruit, they sell everything. So I used to just go in, get my food, and then I used to sit in the car and eat, because you're not allowed to eat in public anywhere. So you can't just go pack your things and make a picnic or something. You are supposed to hide away. In the office, what we used to do, we used to take an empty office and we used to go and sit there so that Muslims can't see us, just out of respect or whatever, just out of consideration that they don't see us eating away. So we used to hide somewhere in an office somewhere. So
was that in Muslim majority countries or Muslim ruled countries, right?
Yeah, where you follow the. Sorry.
If they did see you, or if you happen to sit in the office, what would there be a problem with that?
No.
Okay.
No, this is the difference between real life and the theoretical. Come on, most Muslims eat, they drink. I mean, they know that not drinking during the day is bad for you. And I don't know if you want to play this video of David Wood where he actually lists some of this. Now, of course, we get to the projection, because then, of course, because you have Ramadan and you have this fasting, and because it's one of the pillars of Islam, then Muslims suddenly discover all the benefits of fasting. And even if it's not good for you, they will say, no, it's excellent for you. Even if the side effects are like really adverse, they're still saying, no, it's good for you, because they will never admit that there can be negative side effects of doing that. Now, there is a ruling, because, of course, when you are pregnant, when you are a kid, when you are sick, those things don't apply. So as always, you've got to cop out that if there is a good reason for you not to adhere to these things, then of course you are allowed to. And the funniest thing is, and you see this on a plane, for example, and I always think this is so hypocritical, because what happens is that rich Arabs, for example, they disappear off to Europe because, number one, it's very hot, and number two, nobody gives a shit if in London you see an Arab sitting in a restaurant eating. Nobody cares, because he just wears t-shirt and jeans and he just sits in the restaurant and eats. Nobody's going to ask him, aren't you a Muslim? Aren't you supposed to be fasting? Nobody gives a shit. So they're off in Europe. The next thing is they're sitting, for example, in the plane, stuffing themselves. And then exactly, because he's just been sitting there in a dish dash in the traditional garb, arriving at the terminal, because you have anyway, you know that he's a Muslim, and then he gets into the plane. He takes the stuff off underneath. He's got normal clothes, and he starts eating at the plane. Because if you are traveling, you don't need to adhere to this. So there are certain conditions under which you can eat, and this traveling is one of them. So a lot of people will just eat, and then when you ask them, aren't you supposed to be fasting? And then he says, well, I'm traveling. I just walk from home, didn't I? So stupid.
Well, you could get in a car, couldn't you? And one person drives, the other passenger, and they swap around. I mean,
that's the thing, because I used to have a mate that would, he used to travel over to Edinburgh, and that's over the threshold. It stops at about 50 miles. Is that about right?
Well, it doesn't say. It's up to you.
I think it's about an hour, what used to be an hour and a half of traveling, or something like that in Saudi Arabia. But so he used to, because he used to travel over the threshold, so he'd be like, I can't fast. So he'd go to work and then just eat like normal, and like it'd be yeah, that's okay. But he's obviously bending the rules a wee bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is reality. It shows you that reality is different than the theoretical, conditions that are met, that are being, given to you. So yeah, the funny thing is there is no fixed reward. There is no number of points, because remember in Islam, Muslims get points, and then the number of points get added up, and then you get a better place, better seat in paradise. There is nothing in fasting, even though, and this is the funny thing, even though this is one of the really, really important things. I mean, apparently, this Allah says that the fasting is for me, and I will reward people appropriately. Okay, so this is straight from the mouth of God. I don't know. Do gods have mouths? Anyway, yeah, you can speak, so it must be.
Talking about rewards, I always remember, because we'd have bad breath. Your mum would always say, your mum or whoever would say, oh, that's a good thing, because Allah will give you perfume. Allah prefers bad breath to perfume or something, and then when you go to heaven, you'll get the perfume. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
This is something that is absolutely amazing to me, that this fasting, apparently because it serves no ulterior purpose or motive, whatever, has been pointed out that this is something special for God, and this is your sacrifice that you are making towards this God. I mean, you are so busy as a Muslim all the time as it is. 5 daily prayers all the time. Every time you say the word Muhammad, you have to add peace be upon him, and peace be with him and his family and everybody associated with him, and I hope he does that. So you're spending so much time adhering to all sorts of rituals, and then you still have to go and fast for an entire month. Then the origin is because in the Quran there's a mistake. Okay, in the Quran it says the Quran was revealed during Ramadan, and this is not true, because it was revealed apparently over 23 years and not only during 1 month in Ramadan. The other thing is that it is there to show people how much they value the Quran and how much they value Islam. So when you are supposed to read the Quran, it's during Ramadan. That's when you should read the Quran, and you should finish the whole book during this month. I think you get extra points for that if you read it during Ramadan. So there you go. That's all I know about Ramadan.
Well, that kind of explains it, doesn't it? Because if it was revealed during Ramadan, then Muhammad was hiding in the cave and not trying to fast.
There you go. Yeah. Does it make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
As much as the rest of it does, I suppose.
Oh, this is Anya, of course, says if you get caught eating in Morocco, you have 1 year in prison. I don't even know. Okay, I didn't try it in Riyadh, I must admit. In Doha, it's more relaxed, or Dubai as well. There they don't really care. But yeah. I wouldn't try it in Riyadh, I must admit. Exactly, this is the point. I would hardly call skipping lunch fasting, because that's what it boils down to, actually. Because most Muslims do drink water during the day, because they're saying, well, it's pure, it's water, and every living thing is made from water, so water can't be so bad, so they drink water. But what it boils down to is actually just going and to just go skip lunch. And I fasted then on Tuesday because I skipped lunch. I didn't have time. And I was laughing about it. I thought, oh, Ramadan is starting. I'm skipping lunch because I really didn't have the time. And I thought I would make a good Muslim.
Let me share this with you quickly. So here is an article. This was 2016. This is a little while ago, but sort of same thing. Here was an elderly Hindu man beaten up in Pakistan for eating during the holy month of Ramadan. Looks like a pretty serious injury on his hand there. An elderly Hindu man was beaten up by a constable in Pakistan for reportedly eating and selling food during Ramadan, a month considered holy. The victim was eating in public at around 6 p.m. and the food was given to him as charity. Conflicting reports say he's aged between 82 and 90. So, again, depending on where you are and how strictly they take these sort of things, there's an example of somebody that, took a beating. Presumably, again, I'm going to guess that most Muslims are going to say that, you know, there's no punishment, or they wouldn't punish. But again, Stops, what's your experience in Muslim majority countries, and maybe G, if you can as well, and Steve, if you've heard from Muslims, what traditionally, if you do eat in Ramadan as a non-Muslim in a Muslim majority country, typically what's the response outside of the offices? So Stops, if we're talking about on the streets and that sort of thing.
Well, number one, it doesn't get done. And number two, there is no prescribed punishment, because this is up to God. Because God will reward you and he will punish you. Humans shouldn't, but they do anyway.
Right, okay.
I can only talk from my own experiences. Like I used to fast, and you know, I stuck to, you know, religiously, I suppose. Yeah, mind the pun, but you've got to understand that from where I am, it's quite extreme. So, in the summer, which is obviously now, it can be from, well, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was about from 1 in the morning till 10:15 at night. That was the longest one. So you don't eat, drink, anything during those hours, and then you've got to race off to the local mosque and get your tarawih fixing. So you're coming home in about 12:30, and then by about 1:15, you've got to eat between 12:30 and 1:15, and then that's you. So yeah.
What happens in countries where the sun never sets? I think there's something.
Well, there's been a fatwa, hasn't there, for Iceland, I think, or some country like that.
Sweden, Denmark, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you follow Mecca.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. And Rafa is just saying, I mean, even in Pakistan, he confirms it. But I mean, a lot of people, they don't fast. They don't care anymore. This is out. So, and
this
he
is
says
like
he's eaten in public in Pakistan and nothing happened.
This is slightly off topic here, but what I generally find is a lot of people, like, because my background is Pakistan, so you know, I've only been there once when I was a kid, but you know, the background is from there. What you find is because our parents came in the 60s and 70s, their mindset and how we grew up was from 60s and 70s. They've never really changed, whereas Pakistan's progressed a lot. And this is one of the things that Stops has just said, which kind of highlights it to me, especially because when people go to Pakistan, they're like, they don't give a damn, you know, about things like fasting that much and that. And we were like, really? But over here, the Pakistani community is really strict. It's because, you know, and when I say strict, I mean really strict. You know, like we are like, because we're that mindset from the 60s and 70s, and it's just never changed.
Yes, yeah. So people keep with it. Steve, what's been your? I mean, you were down at Speaker's Corner this week past. Did it start? Let me just think. No,
it hadn't started.
Oh, okay.
It hadn't started then, so it was normal then. Can I ask, is it true what I've heard about if you murder in the name of Allah during the period of Ramadan, your rewards are greater than if you do it at other times?
Well, if it's within the Sharia sort of rules, like, so if the guy had insulted, not if he insulted the Prophet, but you know, if it's under the rules, then you get a higher degree of reward.
Right.
So presumably you mean not murder, but as in take somebody's life or in some way enforce, you know, whatever the Sharia is and whatever the place is.
Yeah.
Get a bonus.
Yes. If you're going to do some suicide bombing, best to do it in Ramadan because your rewards will be greater. Hence why we have the bomb fest of Ramadan.
Yes, of course. Somebody pointed it out on the show as well. I mean, the word suicide bombing is more, as far as I can understand, is more a Western invention, because obviously some Muslims again believe that taking your own life is against the rules. So what you would be doing is you'd be a martyr, or you'd be fighting in the cause of Islam, or whatever the case is. But we've just called it being a martyr. If you just because the technology has improved. I mean, in the old days, you'd go around with a sword, and if you managed to kill somebody and be killed at the same time, then you were fighting in the name of Allah. Now, when you get killed, if you take 50 people with you, it's just because technology has improved. So I think that's more our term than it is. Well, clearly, it's not their term, is it?
No. But whatever it's called, the rewards are greater if it's lawful in the eyes of Islam. The
Yes.
rewards in the afterlife are greater.
Yes. I just want
just to counter that, you might not know, but we all celebrate the first day of Ramadan because the devil's been chained up by God. You do know that, don't you?
I've heard that one.
You've never heard that? Oh, that's so,
No.
that's because what it is that.
Can I ask you, because you did speak to us off air, to whatever degree you're comfortable, can you just let people know, because obviously this is the first time you've come on live with us, to share a little bit about yourself, just so people know a little bit of who you are. They know about the three of us, obviously only to the degree that you feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah, just, an ex-Muslim, mid-40s, wrong end of the 40s, only discovered the light about 2-3 years ago. The masked Arab certainly did help, his videos. It's been an enlightening 2 years. Speaker's Corners sort of helped a lot, the videos, because what you kind of found was, these are the kind of people that I used to be like, and then I'm getting to see the other side, about people talking about logic more, and then how would I have responded. But yeah, so.
Cool. Carry on. You were going to say something about it in your experience. The first day, so Shaitan is locked up.
Oh yeah, so yeah, this is cool. So Shaitan's basically locked up. This is definitely true, by the way. I'm not making this up, but it's so he's locked up. So God's locked him up for So that's why we celebrate, because it means that we're not going to get any new temptation. So that's just the reason why I mentioned it was because I was sort of countering Steve's point there. So I was like, well, we shouldn't have to bomb anyone, because if the devil's been locked up, then there's no reason for us to be, doing any jihad stuff.
Right. Yeah. Theoretically, but obviously,
yeah.
Presumably, there's still people who are disobeying and who need to be corrected, whatever the case is. So.
Although I did see an interesting post, and I think it was Abdullah Samir's or his mates. It was like, why do we celebrate Eid then? Because obviously that's the day that God releases the devil.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, okay. It's just a very funny comment, but it's like, because in Eid everybody's celebrating. But why? Because that's when obviously the devil's being released. So we should be crying on that day then, shouldn't
we?
All right, let me share a few things here. Hopefully this is big enough for people to see. I just want to add a few things here. So obviously Stops has gone through a lot here about Ramadan itself. And here are a few of the things which, again, he talked about. But here's the lunar year, supposedly. Again, as you say, that's not always easy. So for 30 days, every lunar year during the month of Ramadan, waking up before dawn and eating and drinking to prepare for the fast. Binge eating is a common habit, yes. So here's the lunar year, supposedly. Let's just have a look at this, if it comes up on my screen here.
I thought it was 28 days.
Sorry, say that again.
I thought it was 28 days, not 30.
Well, it might be, because I was going to ask Stops that question actually about, when somebody sees the moon, who makes the decision on this? Is this somebody standing on a hill in Mecca, or?
Yes.
Okay, so
no. They send spotters to the coast, and then and to the border, to the Emirates, for example, and then they look out for the moon.
Okay,
yeah, it's all done locally here as well. So your local big mosque, central mosque, will be responsible.
So the muezzin goes up on the minaret and checks when the sun comes, when the moon comes up. And the difference in days is, remember that you have 2 days where there is no moon visible.
Yes, right. Okay, and that's in the middle of this period.
Yeah.
So what do they normally do in that stage? Just carry on
Well,
fasting?
the funny thing is that I remember this was always funny because, I mean, remember in Qatar, for example, I was working for the government and I did not know until the very last day how long the holidays were going to be, because the emir decides, and you then get an email, and then this year the holidays will be from this day to this day for the public sector, and from this day to this year to the private sector, and this will be X amount of days and blah blah blah. You did not know in advance how long this was going to be. It's always, I mean, it's always plus minus a couple of days. It's like 4 days for the private sector and 8 days for the public sector. But the funny thing is, you never know in advance when the holidays are going to be for Ramadan after the Ramadan period, because then you have like the Christmas season, but you never know when.
Right. All right. Let me just share this again. There we go. Let's just present that there. So Prophet Muhammad's hijrah, flight or migration from Mecca to Medina in 622 marks the beginning of the Islamic lunar calendar. This is why Muslim dates have the suffix AH after hijrah. The Islamic lunar calendar, 354 or 355 days, is between 10 and 12 days shorter than the Western or Christian Gregorian calendar, 365 or 366. Muhammad's child bride Aisha was 9 years old at the time of her consummation according to the Islamic calendar. Therefore, it is quite possible that she was only aged 8 years at the time of her consummation according to the Gregorian calendar, which is internationally the most widely accepted and used civil calendar. At least we know that that's the sort of lunar year. So then, from your experience, it's not just 30 days. That can obviously slightly change. So with them stops with them now missing this day. Does that just get a day added on at the end, or is that just a day short now?
No. It's strictly according to the moon.
Okay, cool. Right. So whatever the moon is, which is not necessarily always 30 days, is it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because the earth wobbles.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, so they refrain from consuming food and alcohol, obviously, and breaking the sunset and breaking the fast at sunset, and eating and drinking and preparing for the day ahead. So here's some of the effects on health, and here's some of the thing again. If you want to, I'll pop the link in the post so that people can. I'll just do this quickly so that people can see that and then go back there. Things like dehydration, migraines. I'm not going to read all the whole thing involved there. Severe headaches, dizziness. I don't know. Tachycardia. I can't pronounce that particularly well. I'm sure somebody else can do a better job. Severe headaches, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, circulatory collapse, weight fluctuation. So there's effect on the circadian patterns and sleeping disorders. I heard about that somewhere else as well. Because when you don't eat so well, and then you eat, and then you've got to go to sleep on a full stomach, you obviously don't sleep well because now the blood is digesting the food while you're trying to sleep, whereas you should, stop eating some hours before you go and sleep. Daytime drowsiness, alertness. Stops. Did this ever happen? And G as well. I don't know if you've also seen it at the Speaker's Corner, Steve. Is there a noticeable difference with people in terms of their alertness and all this sort of stuff during the day? Can you actually notice that? I haven't paid attention to it.
No, it's overdone. They always say, yes, it's so terrible and I'm so weak and I need mitigating circumstances. Bullshit.
It's quite serious when you do keep it, like, the way myself and my, people around me here would do it. If you're going to an office, it's noticeable that during that month you're not going to be working as much. And obviously things like lunchtime, you're not going to take your lunchtime. You've got nothing to do. You don't feel like walking outside. You don't feel like doing anything. You just sit there. And eventually, as the month goes on, I think your body just keeps is adapting to it a wee bit more, and you kind of get a bit more used to it. So, I suppose your work gets better during the month. But the first week, it's just terrible, absolutely terrible.
Gee, what was it like obviously you're up north there in Scotland. What was it like with everybody else around you? Obviously, being in a as a minority at that time, how did your fellow non-Muslims treat you, and how did your company or your business treat you? Were you were you supposed to do exactly the same thing, or were they sort of mollycoddling you a little bit? How was it?
Oh yeah, very, very accommodating. Very, very accommodating. It's mostly like, people go out their way to like not have a cup of coffee in front of you and stuff like that, and you kind of like, no, stop that. You're supposed to like do what you're supposed to do, and I'm doing what I'm doing. But Scottish people are generally very kind of accommodating in that sense anyway. A bit too left, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
Would you think now, looking back on it, it's like a fear of offending somebody or doing something that because some Muslims, not all clearly, but some Muslims, have gone to great pains to, tell everybody what sort of victim status they have. And so the culture, certainly that I've observed here in the UK and maybe in other Western countries, is now to be extra careful. It was that sort of the experience you had, or was it not necessarily?
I know, I'd say it would be, absolutely. Some things I would comment on with my sort of brother or my mates. This is when I was practicing, but just to give you sort of an example, because we've got a massive sort of Protestant Catholic sort of thing up in Scotland, like it's really, really big. And if you're talking to Protestant during Lent, he'd make fun of the whole Lent thing. But you'd never see the guy make fun of fasting at all. Which fasting is far more ridiculous than what Lent is. So that just gives you a kind of idea. It's like you're walking on eggshells when you're talking to a Muslim or you're trying to offend a Muslim, but any other one's fair game.
Yes, that's sort of what I've noticed here as well. People who are not critical like us and are because of this whole victim status type of thing that poor us, and we've got it different to some degree. Again, not all Muslims are like that. Clearly, you weren't like that, but that seems to have become ingrained in the Western culture.
Yeah,
Muslims, we've got to treat them specially because their religion is extra special. And if we were to say something or do something, one or more of them might get up in arms. They might sue us. They might take us to court. They might be outside, demonstrating the case.
And it gets more kind of not only cringy, but it gets a bit more kind of stupid because, like, in an office environment, which is all I can comment on because that's where my work environment is. Oh God, it was back in the 90s, 98, 99. There was this guy came over from Pakistan, so he was like a developer, programmer type thing, and he was like, "Don't you just have a place to, because it's Ramadan now, don't you have a place where we can pray?" And we're kind of like, "Well, it's summertime, so it's only Zohar. You don't need to." Well, no, we have to pay extra. And then he fought and got like an office emptied so that Muslims can go there and pray whenever they felt like it. And he justified it by saying that we're not taking the hour lunch, so we'll just spread that hour during the day, which obviously disrupts things like meetings and general workflow.
Yes, and that privilege wasn't given to other faiths or other people or whatever.
Absolutely not.
No. And these are the small things that people don't notice, because it's become such a thing, and the whole thing of potentially offending a minority view and so forth. Now businesses and many individuals that don't know, and haven't interacted with people as we have and aren't critical of Islam, to call it out, that's where it's much more challenging, in the sense that Islam is afforded these special privileges. But then you get some Muslims going, no, we're being persecuted. And the more they say that, of course, the more the general public who doesn't know anything, potentially goes, oh God, they are being persecuted.
Yeah.
Especially whenever there's, some violence that happens, then, people are quick. I occasionally you will hear Muslims condemning the violence on those Muslims, but they never ever point to the religion, as you well know. It's everything except that. It's just bad.
No, it's not. Listen, it's like since I was a kid, it's always been like, and I've been part of that as well, obviously, because I've been indoctrinated with it. But it's like, like Israel and Palestine. That's all we'll concentrate. We're polarized towards that because we've got an enemy that we can focus on. Even to the very day, Facebook's lit up like a Christmas tree because, oh, look what the Jews are doing. Look what the Jews are doing. But I'm not trying to downplay what they are doing. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that there are other things that happen around the world that there are absolutely no, the Muslims just do not care. People like me, I would not care what's happening in Zimbabwe or anywhere else that it didn't involve Muslims, my brothers. So in that way, it's a slight hypocrisy, because the way, and I don't mean to offend anyone when I say it like this, but the one thing is the way, like, the white man will always say, "Oh, the Muslims is suffering, the Palestinians are suffering," and I'd always say, "But look, it's nothing to do with them, but they're still concerned with the Palestinians, for example." And that would not filter through to, like, my Muslim colleagues. They would just be like, aye, but that's nothing. But why? It was like, well, why are we not concerned with other cultures and that are maybe being persecuted or in war zones or whatever? But it just didn't, matter.
Yes, I guess it's a group thing, and some Muslims, take that very seriously, in the sense that they will only point out when their fellow Muslims are in some kind of trouble or whatever the case is. You won't hear them saying, unless they push. If we push people at Speaker's Corner or elsewhere, then Muslims will sort of somewhat begrudgingly say, yeah, it shouldn't happen to other people. But you only hear them speak out when it's as you say, it's the in-group.
Yeah, I remember, like, when I sort of left it, but obviously I'm very much in the closet, very, very much, and that's just because it's personal choice, and that I've got far too much to lose if it was to come out. So it's just my personal choice. And to be honest with you, it doesn't affect my life much, which I can go into in a later time, but I don't want to go away from the topic too much right now. But there was something that happened in Mexico. There's like 40 people died because of maybe a gangland shooting or something. I remember I was sitting with extended family, and they were talking about Palestine at the time, and I was like, "Oh, did you hear what happened in Mexico? There was a 40 people." No one's interested. No one wants to talk about it. And you sort of notice these things, then you're like, well, that's quite one-sided. You only want to talk about your own, because then you feel like a victim.
Yeah.
That's what we say. Islam is very selfish.
Is there anything else anybody wants to add? Steve, anything from your side on Ramadan? I have got Kenny Bauer, who wants to join us in a moment. And so he's a Muslim from Texas.
Okay, yeah, no, I was going to comment on, and I think this came up last year, because I think Ramadan clashed with the exam season. And there was quite a lot of pressure on examination boards and schools to move the period of exams and period of study. But I'm actually glad that for once, I think there was quite a lot of pushback, and they refused to move anything. But I'm sure that will increase in the future. When there is that clash with exams, and whether it's exams or whether it's other things in our society, like everything else, there's going to be only ever increasing pressure for us to change the rules and the timetables to fit them. But at least as of 2017, I think the foot was put down, and the exam timetable wasn't changed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you're raising a very good point, because this is what I always find so hypocritical when I look at the signs. If you go to a mall, and it doesn't matter whether you're in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, if you go to a mall, you will see signs everywhere. Please respect our culture. Please wear adequate clothing. Please remember that you are not in Europe. Please remember that we are da. It's us. Yet when these same people come to Europe, none of that applies. Then it's still all about them, and we need to suck up to them, and never the other way around. And this is what is so hypocritical, because I say to Muslims, look, you have signs everywhere saying respect our local culture. So why can't you bloody well go and do the same here?
Precisely. And then we even get, I saw the other day online, notices that have been put up in public parks saying this is a predominantly Muslim area, so please can you therefore keep your dog on the lead and respect that the locals are highly offended by dogs. I'm sorry, fuck off.
Especially if it's a black doggy.
Yes, drooling.
But just to go from that point that you were sort of saying about the kids at school. One thing I kind of feel really passionate about is, can you guys hear me? Because I think I'm
getting some feedback. Steve, just mute yourself for a moment. I just want to hear if you're still getting feedback there.
Okay.
Just speak again, because some people are in the chat are having trouble hearing you, G. So if you can come up in a different format, maybe on a computer. Are you on your mobile at the moment?
No, I'm on my computer. Bear with me, because I was watching Abu's little tutorial, which you've got in your
yes,
thing.
yes, you did a great tutorial on that. Yeah.
Let's see if this is better. Is this better?
Just unmute yourself again, Steve. And speak again. Okay, go ahead and speak for us now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah.
I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, I think is that better?
Yeah, that's coming through better. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's just from that sort of point of view, and I know it's slightly off topic in that respect, but making kids keep fast. And when I say kids, because I think the law in Islam is they only have to keep it when they're 13 or over, but parents do make their kids keep it. Even primary school kids, and it's like a trophy. It's like, oh look, my kid's keeping a fast today. And I think that's bordering on child abuse, because it's just not right. And but in Britain, parents are doing it, and schools are aware of it, because the parents will phone the schools and say, "Oh, my little Abdul's not to get any lunch today, or don't offer him anything because he's fasting," and then they'll obviously have to adhere to that.
Yes, if a parent asks for it, that's right.
But I think it's bordering on child abuse, because it's like, especially when you think about it.
Especially young children.
Yeah.
The body needs their bodies do need food on a regular basis. It's so good. Okay, so we've got Kenny who's joined us here. So Kenny is a Muslim from Texas, I believe, who wanted to chat about a couple of things we spoke about last week. So Kenny, please unmute yourself. Welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the things you want to address, and then we'll have a conversation here amongst us on the panel.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and everyone who's listening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you're coming. Yes, we can hear you coming fine.
Okay, so just a little bit about me. I am from Houston, Texas, and I am a 30-year revert to Islam. And the majority of that time, I was not practicing Islam the way I should have been. But I've changed some things up in the last number of years, and studying. I've actually of the Brazos Islamic Society in the area in which I live, and I am the imam there, and I am a student of Michigan University, where I'm studying to get my bachelor's degree in Islamic studies. And so a couple of weeks ago, what I was trying to call in about was the discussion that you were having about apostasy and about Sharia law. Things about each of those, because there's some gross misconceptions about Sharia law, and which are two of the areas in which people who are continually attacking us attack those two areas, things about that. And so we can proceed. I don't know if you have some questions, jump right into it.
You're dropping just a little bit. I don't know if you're on a computer or if you're on a Wi-Fi, if you can get closer. You are dropping a little bit of your connection there every so often.
Okay. What about now?
Okay, we'll hear you speak a little bit more. Okay, so I guess you can point out where you think there's some misconceptions we had, and then we can discuss that. I will.
Okay.
Before you go ahead with that, I will just note something, or if I can use the term, pull you up on something. You use the term attack Islam. So what do you mean by attack Islam? Because we critique Islam here, and presumably Muslims.
Well,
now, so you barely, I can barely hear you or understand you at all.
Let me call back in about 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. See if you can.
And this was clear now.
Is it coming through clear now?
You're still dropping words there. Just try and say a couple of sentences.
Okay.
Try again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I can hear you now. Yep.
I'm at a hotel. Okay, it's strange. I've been having the issue with the Wi-Fi here at this hotel I've been at this past week, and so I'm not exactly sure what to do to eliminate that issue. Are you still hearing me clearly?
You're coming through clear now. Yes. Now you're not dropping. Okay. Go ahead. See if you address what I talked about with the word attack Islam.
Well, like I was mentioning, there's a difference between critiquing Islam and attacking Islam. If someone's critiquing Islam, then they have a genuine, a genuine desire to either give or to receive information, and that's a big difference, because people who simply attack Islam go with whatever they hear randomly, from word of mouth and from illegitimate sources, and they use that in whatever means that they possibly can to discredit and to just do just that, to attack Islam. So to critique is to question, and to do so by questioning with a curiosity that is genuine. And if it's done in that regard, then absolutely, there's no problem with that. But the fact is that there are people who claim that they were ex-Muslims, for one. They claim they're ex-Muslims that distort the truth. And there are also people who are true Islamophobes at heart and could care less about what the truth is. And so they're going to jump on anything and everything that they can in order to attack Islam any possible way that they can. Are you still there?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by that. If you just get online, you have an opportunity to gain as much information as you need, okay, in order to draw your conclusion. But what people are going to do, they're going to go to websites and sources that they're already in agreement with, instead of looking at the big picture and getting a full understanding of what it is that they're talking about regarding any given topic. And so if you're going to Islamophobic websites, or you're going to illegitimate websites, and when you're going by hearsay or what you hear in social media, what you hear in the media throughout the world, and you're basing your opinion on simply that, and you haven't done true research and true study, and you're not going to legitimate sources to gain your information, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also doing a disservice to anyone that actually hears you speak on a topic of which you have no true knowledge of. And so that's what I'm talking about. And that's what I heard during, not last week's, I didn't listen last week, and I only listened briefly after I was leaving the masjid the week before last. And the topic of discussion was apostasy and Sharia law. And there's just some real simple and basic misunderstandings that are, I say basic, it's some basic knowledge that people simply don't have, and so it generates gross misconceptions about these topics. And so I just simply wanted to call it. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? You've used the word Islamophobe and the word Islamophobic.
Right.
Could you define those words for us?
Well, obviously, anything that's a phobia is something that is a fear, and so
an irrational fear, it would often be said.
Absolutely, totally irrational, and therefore people are simply out of fear. Let's put it like this: if you step into a room, I'm not saying everyone's like this, but maybe at some point in our lives we've all had this type of feeling where you step into a room full of complete strangers and you feel a certain discomfort. And so what do you want to do? You want to get back to what's comfortable to you. And if strangers step into a room that you're unfamiliar with, there's a certain unease there. Well, it's the same thing intellectually, the same thing spiritually, it's the same thing in regards to religion and a great many other things in this world. But so what generally happens is these people, because they want to stick to what they feel comfortable with, if there's any talk of change that comes about, they want to immediately reject it. They want to attack it. They want to get rid of it. Why? Because they want to go back to what's comfortable. And
Kenny, are you aware you've just contradicted yourself?
I did not contradict myself. I can clarify anything that I've just said.
Okay. Are you aware that you have just contradicted yourself?
Tell me how that I've done that.
So you are not aware that you've just contradicted yourself. You said that a phobia is a fear and you want to get away with it. and yet at the same time you're saying that an Islamophobic website is a site that addresses Islam. That's a contradiction, because if you have a phobia, you're trying to get away from what you have this irrational.
No, that's
fear
so.
of.
No, what you just said is makes no sense whatsoever, because the people that have the Islamophobic attitude go to Islamophobic websites to support their Islamophobia. And so, no, I didn't contradict myself at all. Actually, I don't know how you even derived that from anything that I've stated.
I've tried to explain it to you. A phobia is a malfunction of the brain. So you are saying Islam is a malfunction of the brain?
No, I'm not saying like that.
Stop. So you're kind of saying that
what I said was this is quite simple. Okay, this is quite simple. People who have a or want to go generate relationships with people that fear that they have, and that have that same type of thinking, I should say. When they want to attack something and shun something, well, what do? They go to these websites that support their way of thinking, and in order to achieve their purpose.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
It's quite simple to understand.
Stop.
So maybe I didn't clarify myself.
If you have a phobia and you are afraid, an irrational fear of spiders, you are trying to get away from spiders, and you don't open up a website attacking spiders. You stay away from spiders. That's what I'm saying. This is why the term Islamophobia makes absolutely no sense. But we're going on a tangent. It doesn't really matter. What Steve was trying to point out, that the words that you are using don't make sense. But I think it's better if we come to the actual topic that you are going to address, rather than.
Well, can I just ask? Can I just ask one more thing? So you've used the word Islamophobia and Islamophobic. Can you tell us why the word Christianophobic doesn't exist? Can you tell us why the word Hindophobic does not exist? Islam seems to be the only religion that has this phobia attached to it. None of the other religions seem to have that.
Sure, I can explain that to you very, very easily. And so you're going to have to bear with me with this explanation, because it's a very sensible explanation. We live in the time where the last of the prophets, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is closest to our time, and so therefore we hear information about the last and final prophet more than we do any other prophet of Allah.
Where? In what context? I'm sorry, I don't know that at all.
Well, okay, in the context that, because you're going to have to let me explain this, okay? Because we live in a period that is closest to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who is the last and final prophet of our God, our Creator.
That's not true.
Let me explain.
What Scientology? Just as one example.
Let me explain myself. Let me give the full answer, then you're welcome to question anything.
Not too long of a monologue, but give a full answer, and other guys just let him finish his point. Then we can challenge.
Okay, so quite simply, if we lived in a period closer to the time of Moses, and we had social media the way we do now, then we would hear the name of Moses and the people that used to call him insane and to reject him and didn't want to listen to his directives. Same thing applies to Noah. He built the ark out in the desert that never received a drop of rain for 950 years.
You're being very Abrahamic.
Well, what I'm being is very, very
Abrahamic.
I don't know what that implies, but what I'm trying to say is that we live in a period that is closest to who? The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and therefore this phobia, this rejection of the prophet, still exists today. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to and who I'm not talking to. Most likely, I'm talking to people that are atheists, I would assume. Based on that, you're going to reject anything I say about anything regarding any prophets anyways. So let that be known. But what
we're talking about the definition of the word Islamophobe. That's all we're talking about at the moment.
Right, and so that's what I'm in my explanation.
And you don't get a Scientology phobic or a Hindophobic.
Well, it's obvious because you don't hear about these things in the media nonstop.
But why do we not hear about them in the media?
Because of the fear of Islam. And why is the fear of Islam? Because people don't know about Islam. They don't truly know what Islam is all about. And you operate and you base your opinions and your judgments on word of mouth and what you hear in the media without going to legitimate sources to gain your knowledge and information.
Kenny,
Sure.
can I interrupt you, please? Please,
Sure.
please. You are on the Jinn and Tonic show. Please don't be condescending. Don't accuse us of only looking at Islam through newspapers and Fox News. I beg you, please do not do that.
Well, for one thing that I did not do, I did not call anyone's name. We're talking about generalities here through society and throughout the world, and that's what I'm referencing. And so that's
okay. Can we talk about Sharia now? What is your beef with what we said?
Okay, in regards to Sharia, for one, there's 13 countries throughout the world that implement Sharia law, and not one of those Muslim countries, I'd say 13 countries, 13 Muslim countries that are predominantly Muslim, and these countries have portions of Sharia law within their countries in their laws, but not one of those countries follows Sharia law completely. Not one.
According to whose definition?
Not even close. This is just information you're going to have to look up. It's just a fact.
No, we don't have to look up it. This is exactly what I'm saying.
Right. This is exactly what I'm saying.
Definition.
But let's put it like this: through Michigan University, when we study Sharia law, it is established fact that out of those 13 majority Muslim countries,
You're dropping a bit, Kenny. We can't hear you. We've lost you. Hello? Hello? Now you're back again, yes.
Okay, yeah, just bear with me.
Various ways.
Yeah, so bear with me.
Oh,
it's not very good here. So anyway, in my studies at Michigan University, when we studied Sharia law, it was established that out of those 13 majority Muslim countries, not one of them follow Sharia law exactly. Not one. Not even close.
What criteria? Based you say established fact.
For one, let's establish what Sharia law is, and then you'll understand. Because that's where the misconception is, that the understanding of what Sharia law actually is people simply don't understand what it is.
Okay, what is Sharia?
So Sharia is the laws of our God, our Creator. But within those laws of our God, our Creator, we must first and foremost follow the laws of the land. Whatever the law is of the land must be followed first, and it cannot be deviated. It cannot be deviated unless it goes totally against the principles of Islam. Meaning, if someone can't make you worship some other god or things of that nature. But in regards to the actual laws of the land, like in the United States, we have states that have the death penalty, and we have states that reject the death penalty. If we live in a state that has the death penalty, well, if you do a crime, guess what? You're going to be put to death. Okay, the same thing applies in Sharia law. Wherever you are, we must follow the laws of the land. Okay, so.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If you say the laws of the land, if now a sister inherits the same as the brother, what happens?
Okay, now you're talking about inheritance. There's reasons for that.
It's called inheritance.
Okay, so
yes.
Right. So you're talking about inheritance, and that's in the study of Surah An-Nisa, which is the 4th chapter of the Quran. It covers all of that, and there's reasons why the female receives less than the man.
No, there's not.
And
we've lost you again, Kenny.
The tafsir, which is the analytical interpretation of Surah An-Nisa, which is the 4th chapter of the Quran, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. There's actual reasons why, and they're legitimate reasons why, and they're very logical reasons why. And if you haven't studied this, then you are simply basing your opinion on having not studied it.
I've studied
it. Guess what? Where did you study this at?
It doesn't matter. I've studied it. I'm not going to show you my diploma. I've studied it. Show me where it says in Isa in the 4th chapter.
I'm going to hold you to I'm going to hold you to the same criteria. If you want me to accept anything that you're saying, then I would like for you to prove your source.
Kenny, it's very simple.
If you can't,
Kenny,
it's very simple. If you haven't studied this, if you haven't studied this, then you have no reason.
Kenny, in chapter 4, you have 3 different areas. It's 411, 412, and 176. Those are the 3 areas which talk about inheritance. They only say a woman receives half. Why does she receive half?
Right, exactly. So just like I just said, you have not studied this. What I told you, if you study the tafsir, which is the analytical interpretation, which is what I go to Michigan,
not the interpretation. I'm talking about the Quran.
Right. Guess what? The tafsir is the analytical interpretation of what? The Quran. That's exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is
the Quran or the interpretation.
Right. If you're studying the Quran, you have to study the interpretation to get an understanding.
No, I don't. Where does it say that?
The Quran says.
I thought the Quran is complete.
Okay, so let's stop right here because so what I'm trying to tell you is the tafsir is the analytial interpretation of each
right. Don't treat us like children.
Well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat you the way you are commenting.
Show me in the Quran where it says why a woman inherits half.
You're talking about something that you have no knowledge of, and what I'm trying to tell you.
Show me, educate me.
Right.
Show me in the Quran where it says why a woman inherits half. Easy.
Okay. If you would stop talking for a moment and let me explain myself, I will do just that. You ready?
Steady, go.
Okay, so if you study the analytical interpretation of the verses of each and every line and ayah of the Quran, then you will understand what the meaning actually is. Okay, in the English language or whatever language you might be reading it in, for one, you're not reading the Quran if you're reading it in any of those languages. And so in order to gain an understanding about what is actually being said in the Quran, you have to study the tafsir of the Quran. I myself have studied in the university the analytical tafsir of each and every verse of the Quran. And so there's a big difference. There's
you a very specific question.
Right. And I'm giving you very specific answers. Yes, I am.
You're tap dancing around. I've asked a very specific question. You give the specific answer.
No, what you're doing is you're cutting me off and not letting me complete my statement.
You're talking about, I don't know, Adam and Eve. I asked you a question. Where in the Quran does it say? Okay, let me ask it differently. Does it say in the Quran why a woman receives less inheritance than the man?
In the Quran, it gives the directive. In the Hadith, it gives the explanation of it. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, says to obey him and to obey the Prophet. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, expounds upon what these words mean in the Quran. And so that's what I'm trying to. I'm answering your question.
No, you're not. Stop. I asked you, it's a yes, no. Does the Quran say why a woman receives?
I just told you, the Quran gives the directive. The Prophet Muhammad, yes no? The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him,
yes
gives
no?
the explanation of it.
Kenny, it's very simple. It's a yes or a no.
Right, but I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer because it doesn't require a yes or no answer.
So you can't answer the question. Why can't you say I can't answer the question?
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the question in the manner in which it's supposed to be answered. In which
you don't decide that. Okay, let me ask you something else.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the truth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, just like I told you, is that the Quran gives the directive and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, expounds upon this in the Quran. I mean, in the Hadith.
Okay. So if the Quran makes a mistake, then what?
For one, over 1,400 years, the Quran has made no mistake whatsoever.
Okay. And if the daughters inherit 2/3 and the husband, the father and the mother inherit 1/3, how can the wife inherit 1/8?
I'm not going to get into any of those math situations.
It's not a math situation. It's very simple. 2/3 plus 1/3 is 1, plus the 8 is more than 1. How can you have that?
Let me explain to you why, in general terms, why the woman gets half. The reason
you can't answer that.
I can't answer that.
I ask you different. Why is it that there's a mistake in the Quran?
There is no mistake in the Quran.
Okay, if the daughters get 2/3 and the parents get 1/3, how can the wife get 1/8?
I don't understand your question completely, to be honest, and I'm not going to get into the math.
Okay, in the Quran has 114.
What I'll do.
Chapter 4 in the Quran is called the women, the Anisa. And in the chapter 4, you have 176 different sentences. And in 11, 12, and 176, it goes and tells people what the inheritance portions are of the individual people. It says in 4:11, it's the second sentence, verse, it says, and blah, 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 and then the daughters get half. But if it's more than 2 daughters, women, it says women, not daughters, but women, then they will get 2/3 of the inheritance. Now, then it says that the father and the mother each get 1/6, which is 1/3. So it's 2/3 plus 1/3 is 1. And the wife gets 1/8. That's what it says in the Quran. Can you explain how that is possible?
What I'm going to explain it to you without you trying to nitpick every.
I'm nitpicking. I'm allowed to nitpick the Quran. It's your God.
Right. You're being something you simply don't understand. So let me explain to you why.
2/3 plus 1/3 is 1. I don't understand.
Right. You just simply don't understand. If you let me explain to you why the woman gets less, then you'll understand.
I just asked you how it's possible that 2/3 plus 1/3 does not allow for 1/8.
I'm not going to get to the math.
Okay, so you can't answer my question why the woman gets less than the man. You can't answer why there's a mathematical error in the Quran.
I told you I can answer you why the woman gets less than the man.
No, you can't, because the Quran doesn't say so.
No, I can tell you why. I absolutely can tell you why.
You are going now into tafsirs. You're going and giving me Al-Jalalain, Ibn Kathir, Maududi, or whoever.
No, actually, I'm not. No, I am not. I haven't said any of that you just said has not come out of my mouth.
Kenny, just listen. You're going to tell me that some human being says because the woman can use her money for perfume and for makeup, and the man has to look after the family, that's why the man gets more than the woman.
Are you there? 'Cause I lost y'all for a second there.
Yes, we're here.
Okay, well, I lost y'all, so I don't know what he said.
Okay, so Kenny, let me just summarize here. You've been asked about it in the Quran. You haven't answered the Quran, but you're saying that the tafsir gives the explanation for what the Quran doesn't say. Is that correct? As a summary of it?
I'm telling you that the tafsir is a requirement to gain the full interpretation of what the Quran is stating. And the tafsir is based on a couple of different things. For one, the linguistics of the Quran, which is in the Arabic language, and also the hadith and the actual sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who was sent to actually expound upon each of these things.
Why? Why?
Because it's very simple. Because of the different levels of comprehension and different levels of intellect throughout society.
So your God failed?
No, actually, that's a ridiculous thing to say. I'll repeat again. Because of the different intellects in society, it's needed for some people to have a more clear explanation of what's being said, and therefore you have some people because people have varying levels of intellect.
Why?
So someone might read a paragraph and know exactly what it's saying. Someone might have to read it 10 times, and after the 10th time, they still don't know what's being said.
Why?
Because of the varying levels of intellect.
Why?
I know what you're going to try to get at, which is a prime example. Which is a prime example of someone who attacks Islam. Because if you're attacking,
I'm asking why.
If you're attacking the God of Islam, then inevitably you're attacking Islam.
I am questioning you. I'm saying why.
Why what? Why do people have varying levels of intellect?
Yes.
Or are you saying why is everyone not born perfectly?
Yes.
Okay. very simply, because everything in this life is a test, and so
Why?
therefore we're faced with different circumstances.
Why?
Why? That's by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our
Why?
Creator. Because inevitably a day of judgment's going to come, and we're going to answer for each and every decision that we made in this world.
So
And
your Allah
sometimes,
doesn't
guess
know?
what? Let me finish my answer.
Hang on, he
And so
doesn't
therefore,
know. Your Allah is
therefore-
incompetent and does not know.
actually, He knows everything that you reveal and everything that you conceal.
So why does
He
he
knows
need a test?
when you're laying in your bed at night. He knows what you're thinking about. Do you realize
Is it?
that?
So
Because
he's eavesdropping and spying on me?
right?
How kinky
But
is that?
Actually, I wouldn't call it spying, but keeping track of you every step of the way.
I call
through
it spying.
every moment of your life.
Your God
Absolutely.
creates
That's
a
how you
book.
put it.
Okay, your God creates a book which is supposed to be read by the humans it creates, and it creates the humans incapable of understanding the book it writes. So he then sends other humans to explain to the incompetent humans that he created incompetent to explain the book that he wrote, which is incompetent because it contains mistakes. So the humans have to explain the mistakes to those who don't understand it. So now everybody can be happy. Is that the story you're selling us?
Actually, in your attempt to be sarcastic, you actually answered it exactly right. The way you just answered is exactly right. Mhm. And only someone who does not believe is someone that will have a problem with that.
Of course, because it's a
Right.
mafia. If you don't
But
believe, you have to
the
believe.
same one who doesn't believe, the same one that doesn't believe is the same one that didn't know what day he would come into this world and doesn't know what day he's going out of this world. And so you see yourself as self-sufficient. You see
Okay,
yourself
Kenny, is there
as
anything that you
independent.
can answer? Is there anything that you know about the Quran that you know something about?
Let me hold my emotions in this situation, because this is the month of Ramadan, and I'm not here to argue with anyone, and I'm not
Do you
going
know
to
what
take your
16:125 says?
patronizing and condescending remarks. Okay.
Do you know chapter 16, sentence 125?
Tell me what is it?
Do you want to look it up? You are an imam, okay? You should know the Quran.
I'm an imam. Do you know what an imam is?
Yes, he's the leader. Oh,
Okay.
fucking hell. It's somebody who stands in the front whose bum goes up the first.
Right. Okay.
Um,
You know the difference between a hafiz and an imam?
Yes, I know the difference between a hafiz and an imam.
Okay, exactly. So
Kenny,
as an imam, it's not requirement for me to learn
You should
and
know the
memorize each and every line of the Quran.
I thought
And for
every
you to pull
Muslim
out-
is obliged.
and for you to pull out a random verse in a certain ayah and expect me to tell you exactly what that is.
Well, it's a substantial one. It's an
I don't-
important one.
Right. Well, tell me what it is if it's so important to you.
It
Let's
says
see how
that you
important
are supposed to argue in a very polite way and explain your belief.
Right. Exactly.
Oh,
So
so
what
you
does it
did
say?
know.
It says, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and kind words. Right? Exactly. And that's why I said I'm going to have to control my emotions, because I don't like your condescending attitude. I'm a
Okay,
grown man.
tell us
Okay.
about okay, tell us about Sharia where we made a mistake.
Okay. So in Sharia, there's many areas in which you've made a mistake. You've jumped into a lot of conclusions about something that you have very little knowledge of. And that's just plain and simple. And so you may have people call in and they support what you think, but those people that call in supporting what you think already think in the lines that you do. And what is that? They have a fear of Islam. And
Okay.
so therefore, go ahead.
But can you give us a specific example? Because what I'm noticing here is a lot of generalities when you speak. So
Well, I can't talk about specifics because I don't know any of you individually and personally. So I can't talk about any of you in particular.
No.
So I have to talk about generalities. No, that's
I'm not meaning-
I have to talk.
I'm not meaning
I have to talk in general terms.
I'm
Huh?
not speaking about one of us. I'm speaking about specific claims that one of us or more than one of us have made. So, for example,
Well, I don't. Go ahead.
example, I think if I remember, and Stops can correct me, when we were talking about Sharia, one of the things Stops mentioned is that a man and a woman in Sharia can never get, I think it's correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stops, and you may well do, that they can never get equal portions under Sharia. That's not possible under Sharia. Just before you answer, Kenny, is that what you said, Stops? I don't want to misquote you.
No, there are configurations where a man and a woman can get the same. Yes.
Oh, okay. So maybe you can give Kenny one of the things that you spoke about, because I can't remember all of them, that or Kenny, if you know a specific claim that one of us made that you feel is wrong, that's what I'd like you.
Rob, I can't do that because like I said, I was leaving the masjid from Juma, and I was just listening to it as I was driving, and also had calls coming in. And so I can't tell you, that was 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you any specific thing that was said, but in regards to apostasy in particular, and in regards to the stoning of people who have committed adultery, or any Sharia law in regards to punishment. And so I wanted to clarify something. Go ahead.
Why do you keep calling it Sharia law? What is the reason behind that?
Right, I'm calling it Sharia law because that's what y'all were talking about 2 weeks ago when I called in, which is why I'm calling in now.
No, we talk about Islamic law. Islamic law is Sharia, and you are saying Sharia. Islamic law. This sounds funny.
Well, it's just what does that matter? Kenny, it's just, we both know what the context of what we're talking about. So
Kenny, I would be quite interested to hear your views on apostasy and your particular views on that.
This is in one of the areas in which I absolutely wanted to talk about. Okay, and so for apostasy to take place, please let me give this full explanation because it's quite easy to understand if you open your mind to understanding and hearing the truth. The fact of the matter is that apostasy can only be enacted when it is wartime, for one. First and foremost, there must be a legitimate war taking place, okay? If there's no war taking place, then one cannot be killed for apostasy, period. And that's period.
Have you got a source for that?
Absolutely. If you study in the university, the Islamic laws of Sharia, well, if you want a legitimate source, that's the legitimate source. Studying actual Islamic material from Islamic sources. That's the source. I just told you I'm a student of Michigan University.
Listen, Kenny, I'm in your side here, right? I'm in your side here. Trust me, right?
Okay.
I'm genuinely interested to hear your views on apostasy, like what you think. But you can't just go say, "Oh, you've got to go to university." That's not fair, right? Because then that just stops the conversation.
No, it doesn't stop the conversation. What I'm trying to express to you is that if you're going to talk about a subject, then you have to study it from legitimate sources. And where do you gain a legitimate source about any given topic? Most likely in the university. If you have not studied it in the university, then you're doing the topic a disservice. And that's just plain and simple.
So what happens where I am?
Let me ask you this. I
don't have a university here that teaches your form of Islam, because like obviously I'm not the same as yours, right? Well, what I was, sorry. But number two, I don't have the time either. So all I've got to do is I've got to listen to either my imam or the little time I've got. So I ain't got the luxury of going 9 to 5 to a university to understand what your form of apostasy is. So that's why I'm saying it's not fair. You can't just, because I'm genuinely interested, because I might be considered as an apostate. So I'm just wanting to know where my position is in this. So do you understand that it's not fair for you to just turn around and say, "Oh, well, go to uni"?
Okay, it's very interesting that you mentioned time, because the time is crucial. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, it says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says wal asr in al insana lafil khusr il alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bil sabr. What I just said in English is, by the token of time through the ages, verily man is in loss, except for those who have faith and do righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and of constancy. And I'm bringing those verses up for a purpose and for a reason, which is in regards to it saying, who join together in doing righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and of constancy. And how do you gain the truth? You have to gain the truth by going to legitimate sources and not just going off of hearsay and not going off of your own. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're not giving me your opinion. You're not giving me what you believe.
I'm giving you my opinion, which is based on Islam. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that in order for this to take place, you have to legitimately seek the truth. And what does it say? And of patience and of constancy. So you have to continually seek knowledge. And if you have a legitimate concern about any given topic, then you have an obligation. You have an obligation. If you're going to sit and try to talk about a topic, then you should have an obligation within yourself to gain as much information about that topic as you possibly can.
Kenny,
and where do you go? You go.
You're waffling.
Okay. So in order to do that, you go to legitimate sources.
Kenny, as I said, I'm in your side here right now, right? But for example, if Stops or Steve or Rob were to ask me, look, you know, even a couple of years ago, look, and I was a Muslim for 43 years, right? So, you know, I'm not saying that I studied to your level, but I did know the Quran and the Hadith. But if they were to ask me the same question I asked you, what's your views on apostasy 2-3 years ago, I'd have been like, look, it's someone who has rejected Islam, having taken Islam out of Islam, and it's quite clear it's the death penalty. That's it. That's what I would have answered. And that's me being honest.
I appreciate you being honest. But honestly, you would be answering incorrectly.
How?
Because
that's good, but how?
Right. And I'm saying that respectfully. I'm not trying to belittle you or anything like that, but you would simply be answering incorrectly. And therefore, if you don't have a full knowledge of what it is you're talking about, then you shouldn't give an answer. You should say, be humble and say, you know what, I can't answer that. Okay. And so it's the same thing that you would have someone do if you ask them about brain surgery. Well, none of us are brain surgeons, and therefore we know what brain surgery is, and we can talk about it a little bit, but we're going to be very limited as to what it is that we can actually give that's actual true knowledge about brain surgery.
It's a simple question. It's just a simple question. What are your opinions on apostates? What do you think should happen to apostates? Now look, it's simple. I've sat in masjids where this question is not obviously asked because nobody's going to ask it in the congregation, but the imams just said clear and cut, and this is not some kind of weird sect of Islam. Okay. This is mainstream. No, one minute. This is mainstream Sunni mosques, right? These are run by Saudi Arabian government type mosques, whatever you want to call them, and it's quite clear apostates, according to the Quran, it's the death penalty. Now, on top of that, they will add on, because we live in a foreign country like Britain or Scotland, I would say, you have to abide by the laws of the country. So we can't just go and kill G25. We have to, let them live. But the fact of the matter is, if I was in Saudi Arabia right now, or any of those other countries that you mentioned that follow Sharia law, my opinion would be, from what I've learned from 43 years, is that I would be killed. Now, what's your opinion about that?
So it's really simple, which is, for one, based on the laws of the land, first and foremost, which is in agreement with Sharia. If the death penalty, or putting someone to death for apostasy is the laws of the land, then it's the laws of the land. But what you are trying to do is trying to apply it to just Islam in general, where you're trying to suggest, I'm not saying any of you right now are trying to suggest this, but what I'm trying to say is that this is a common misconception, which is that if you don't accept Islam, if you don't accept Sharia, if you leave Islam, then you're going to be put to death. And that's ridiculous. That is not.
Oh, right, that's it then. That's it then. So you've just answered the question. So your opinion is that it's ridiculous. So you think that what's written in the Quran, that apostates should be killed, is ridiculous. Because I feel
put any words in my mouth.
No, but you said it.
Any words in my mouth.
Put your own words in your mouth then.
No, I did not. Let me explain it again for the layman, okay? And make it plain and simple for the layman. You ready? If we live in a country in which the death penalty is required for those who commit apostasy.
From Islam.
Right. Okay, right. So that's what you're trying to apply it to. But once again, if there's no war taking place, then there's no reason for anyone to be put to death for leaving Islam.
Okay, Kenny, you might not like. No, I do. I want to learn. I want you to teach. Listen, you might be the one that brings me back in. Fantastic, right?
Okay.
But you can't just say go to uni to learn about the
Okay.
war.
Plain and simply, plain and simply, let me explain it to you. For one, you already know the verses, which is quite common, and I'm going to repeat it again. There is no compulsion in religion. Let me speak. Okay. I'm going to tell you what happened with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam after they returned from Medina with 10,000 Muslims coming back to Mecca. The Muslims, the Sahaba, come to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask him, what do we do about the Jews and the Christians? He said, you allow them their freedom. Okay, you allow them their freedom. There's no compulsion in religion. And so therefore, there's no compulsion from those who were never Muslims, there's actually no compulsion for those who claim to be Muslims.
Right,
The only time,
we're talking about apostasy. I know, but just
and you just cut me off. You just cut me off before I gave you full explanation. And so if you're in wartime, and someone leaves the Muslim ranks, and they left the Muslim ranks, and they go and they are revealing secrets of the Muslims in regards to where's the location of the Muslims, what are their provisions, what type of armaments do they have, what are their defenses, and all those things, and you catch this person, then this person will be put to death. But there's also another stipulation. The Muslims themselves would have to have heard this individual make these claims, would have to have heard this individual speaking against Islam or speaking against the Muslims, and would have actually had to catch that person. When is that ever going to happen? When is someone going to betray their country or betray the group that they claim that they were a part of, and the group that they are part of actually hears them do such a thing? That doesn't take place.
I understand.
So therefore,
so
it makes it almost.
The Quran doesn't say it. You just heard it from somebody somewhere who told you this. It's not in the Quran. It's nowhere. It's just that somebody else made it up.
Okay,
why can't you just be honest? Why can't you just no? I don't know why.
So what it is,
Kenny, you answered my question in that fashion where I asked you where it is for the wartime. You've answered it in a roundabout way, but I understand. So just let's be clear. Let's just say King Kenny has his own Sharia state in. You're from Texas, so let's just say, for example, Texas becomes a Sharia state, and you're now the imam, what's it called, the leader of the Muslims, the Khalifa, right? But you would stipulate that you've not to kill people like me or apostates because it's not wartime and I'm not sharing secrets. Do you know how ridiculous that would sound, like to other Muslims around it?
Well, do you know how ridiculous it sounds to claim that someone is to be put to death just simply because they have left Islam? That's even more ridiculous.
That's what's written.
That's far-fetched. No, it's not written that way.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I'm trying to tell you that in order for you to speak on a subject, you have to study the subject. And how do you study the subject? By studying what? I'm going to tell you again. It's called analytical tafsir, analytical interpretation of each and every verse of the Quran. If you do that, then you'll have a true understanding about what it is that you're talking about. If you have not done that, you have no right to speak on a subject that you have no true authority to speak on. And so what I'm telling you is based on Islam and the stipulations through the Hadith and the Quran itself. And that's just a fact. You may not want to hear it. It may blow you out of the water. It may make you look foolish in front of the people that listen to you. But that's the truth.
It's not like that for me, right? For me, especially, just talking about myself, I'm happy you're explaining yourself. That is fantastic. All I'm trying to, and do you know what, like what you're saying, I'm not trying to make fun of it at all. I just asked you what your opinion was, and you told me that. Now,
well, okay. Let me just
to go one step further. Do you appreciate that not everyone's going to this university that you're going to, or this imam that you're listening to is listening, but the majority, now I mean the majority of, let's just say, Muslims in Britain do not agree with you, right, at all. They're probably listening to you thinking, where is he getting this source from? And they probably think of you as like,
you can make that claim, but
can you at least accept that?
No, I can't accept that. Let me tell you why. Because there's no way for you to put a figure on that number of people. There's no way for you to state. You can barely state what you think on your own. And I'm not saying that derogatory. I'm saying just period. And therefore, you have no authority to say what masses of people think about anything that I've said.
Right. Okay, let me put it another way. Let me put it another way, because I'm going to let Steve have a shot as well, because I know he wants to say something. But I just want to say it another way, right? Now, this is just, and again, I'm not being facetious. I'm just trying to give you from where I'm looking at, because I was a Muslim, and I'm trying to see where I would have been if I was listening to you. Now, for example, not where I was, but there was plenty of Muslims where I live that would have said, well, you're not a true Muslim right now because you've got a picture of yourself, right? Now, you know, many Muslims will regard that as, you know, against Islam, correct?
Okay, so
I'm just saying. So you just got to accept that.
Let me answer this. Okay, so in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do not go to extremes in your religion. What does that mean? Do not be ridiculous. Don't be just simply ridiculous, okay? And therefore, some people will make the claim that if you don't step into the masjid with your right foot, then you're committing a sin. Well, that's ridiculous. Let's not.
But why is that? But why is that ridiculous? Why is that ridiculous?
Well, because people have varying levels of intellect. They have varying levels of understanding. And if you haven't studied these things deeply, you don't, just like you said before, you know, your issue was not Islam. Your issue was not spending the time. Remember, I said, I repeated al-Asr. It says, by the token of time, verily man is in loss. Okay, because why? Because man doesn't utilize his time properly. If you utilize that time, hold on. If you
I get what you're saying. I get.
You don't get what I'm saying. If you cut me off,
I'm not cutting you off. I'm saying you've answered my question.
Let me make my point. You can't get what I'm saying unless you let me finish what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to say that I've understood.
I know, but what I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to make a point to you in particular, which is the reason you. I'm not saying that. Let's put it like this: if you would have utilized your time properly, if you would have utilized your time instead of whatever it is you were doing, I'm going to talk in general terms. If men were, instead of going to the club and chasing women and drinking alcohol and doing all the things they do, if they would engage themselves in actual true study and trying to find the truth and go to about topics that really matter in our lives, then they would be utilizing their time in the best of manners. So that's why Allah tells us in the Quran, by the token of time, by the gift of time, the token is a gift, right? By the gift of time, verily man is in loss. Why? Because he does not seek knowledge.
All right,
therefore,
can I just
knowledge, you're limiting yourself.
I know, but I don't want to take up all the time as well, but you said about stepping in with your right foot. Now, I just want to pick up on that point. You said that's ridiculous. Now, there is a huge sect of Muslims. They're called Tabligh. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I haven't heard of them.
They're our form of Jehovah's Witnesses. They'll go to other Muslim houses in different towns and cities and invite them to the mosque. And they're very, very they follow the hadiths a lot. Now, you know, not my family, but my in-laws and that are very much into that. Now, just to sort of clarify, that's a huge sect. They come from Pakistan, but that's a huge sect. You've just called all of them ridiculous. You've just called all of them, like, you know, whatever word you use. And I would say, well, that's wrong as well then, because how can you single-handedly just say all those guys? Now, we're talking millions, right? You can Google this yourself.
Let's put it like this. Okay, I'll explain it very easily, which is there's 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, the vast majority of which are Sunni. I could care less what someone calls themselves, be it Shia or Sunni or you know, this small group that you've mentioned. They're certainly in the minority of those who call themselves Muslims. But I'm going to revert back to what does the Quran say? It says there's no let there be no invocation in the religion. If there's any changes are not allowed. Anything where someone deviates from
but you're going to listen. I know where you're going. But I just want to say this one thing. Okay, listen, right? I'm not a Tabligh. But listen, they're Sunni. They're Sunni, right? Okay, listen, they're Sunni. They're a huge group. All I'm trying to say is that you single-handedly. Now, here, let me just say this. Let's just say when you reverted, let's say you stepped into one of their mosques. Right now, you would be saying, "Oh, you must step in with your right." And they say lots of things, but you must step in with your right foot. So all I'm saying is, can't you?
And I will tell them, I would tell them, just like I've told you, the Quran says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, far above any group or any individual or any people that you're talking about. It says, do not go to extremes in your religion. Do not make things hard on yourself. Do not be ridiculous about your religion. That's plain and simple. So what does it truly matter in the big picture as far as the day of judgment goes? What foot someone steps into a building with? Absolutely not.
But you called
Absolutely
it ridiculous.
Not.
That's what you called it. You said it was ridiculous.
And I'll say it again. I'll say that again, and you can put.
No, I'm not trying to quote you to put a big quote up. I'm not trying to say, I'm saying that because if you are tunnel visioning this, right? Now listen,
brother,
I'm with you. No, listen, I'm with you. No, let me just say this one wee bit. Right? I'm with you on this, right? So listen, Islam is beautiful. Islam is great. You know, we've got a way of life. We don't go clubbing. We don't look at chase after women. Fantastic. But within that, you've just single-handedly like just called a huge group of people ridiculous. But for what reason? Just to prove this little point. What I'm saying to you is that you need to come out this tunnel vision that you're in. That you're in this university. You can be a Muslim with diverse thoughts and acceptance.
No, don't get me wrong. That for one, there's things to learn about Islam continually, and which is why what does Allah tell us? To continually seek knowledge. It tells us this over and over and over again, and repeats it over and over again in various ways, and tells us to continually seek knowledge. But what I'm trying to tell you, and I would debate this with any Muslim or anyone else respectfully, and tell them that in the big picture, it does not matter which foot one steps into a mosque with. It just simply does not matter.
Right, I agree with you. Right, listen, Kenny, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I'm going to sort of mute myself so I can let Steve talk, but I really did enjoy that. But I just want you to know that I really do appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope you do come on again as well, because I do want to talk about things like that. I want to talk about this Ramadan thing with you as well, but I'm going to let Steve talk. Steve, go ahead.
Inshallah. Well, what's your name? I don't even know who I'm speaking to right now. Who was that?
Who, mine?
Yes.
Yeah. Just call me G. That's fine.
Okay, inshallah. Okay,
Hi, I'm Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hi. I don't know if you know the chat that's going on. I was just going to pick up a couple of things that were in the chat. So the first question is, are you ginger?
Well, not quite as much as I used to be, but yes.
You are, okay. Because I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in England, you know, of the relatively small numbers of white British people that are converting to Islam, quite a big proportion of them are ginger. Is that the same in the States?
No, not that I've come across, to be quite honest. When I go to any masjid, and I do visit various masjids, and very seldom do I see anyone that has my complexion. To be quite honest, I'm sure there's plenty out there, but in my personal experience, my life, no, I haven't come across very many.
Okay, okay.
I know Hamza on Speaker's Corner. I know he's
a perfect example of a white British ginger convert.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
And I use the word perfect unwisely. So the next question is: did you you obviously converted or revert, as you like to say, to Islam. Did that happen in jail?
Absolutely not.
Not.
I don't know why people. Absolutely not.
Well, maybe that's another British thing, that we have a huge Islamic problem in our jails. And again, quite a lot of the white British people that are converting to Islam, it's actually happening in the penal system.
My story is actually pretty interesting, to be quite honest. I actually reverted to Islam at the age of about 17. I used to be in the music business, and I could tell you a lot about that.
How old are you now?
I'm 47 now.
So you've been in Islam for 30 years? 30
years, alhamdulillah. And you know, I wasn't to be quite honest, you know, a great majority of that time I was not around other Muslims, and I was not married to
so can I ask, did you acquire your criminal records whilst a Muslim?
That is debatable. And I say that because
since you were 17.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so what I was saying here is that for one, I have never been to prison. I've never been convicted of any felony or anything like that. So I don't know what you're trying to imply, or if you have an evil intention. But no, I do not
No,
have.
there's just comments in the chat room that you do have a
Yeah.
bit of a criminal record.
No, so about 4 years ago, I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and clarify it. I have no Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, knows the truth of the matter.
Sorry, what was that? Who knows the truth?
Our God, our creator, the one who created
Well,
you and the one who created
him
myself.
and the judge, I guess.
Yeah, the judge knows. And
Okay, I'm not sure what the relevance of this is. Somebody's asked, and it's fun. I don't see the relevance of you trotting out.
Yeah.
You know, somebody can be a criminal. There's been many people that have done wrong things. I don't see the relevance of that, to be honest.
Okay, well,
it's just
go through your rap sheet.
Well,
I think Kenny wants to clear it up.
Well, it boils down to he's just trying to discredit me. He's trying, but today is
I would
today isn't yesterday.
Kenny, before you make those statements, because that's easy to refute, rather ask a question. Okay, so Steve is just reading off the chat because I've read it on the chat there. I just don't think it's personally relevant. If you want to tell us all about it, fine, but I don't see how it's relevant to the discussion about Islam. You could have been a not so good guy, now you're a wonderful guy. It doesn't matter to me. What I care about is what you believe and why, and is it true? That's all I care about.
I appreciate that, Robert. And the thing is, it's actually going to be addressed in my book. The book is Considering Islam, and I do talk about some things from the past. And I will repeat, and then we can change the subject, which is that I am not a convicted felon, not even close, and had charges that were filed against me that were illegitimate. And alhamdulillah, everything's a test in this life, and here we are today, and I share the beauty of Islam every time I get a chance. So alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my God, my creator, knows the truth. And guess what? The judge actually does know the truth. so we're good.
So Kenny, one of the things I've noticed while the other panelists have chatted to you is you're making seemingly absolute or knowledge statements, but you're not giving us information we can go and verify. So you keep talking about the university and this thing's a fact and this thing's known and so forth. And maybe you weren't prepared for it or whatever the case is. What I would like for you to do if you come on again is to have some references that you can quote to us that we can also look. Because here's the problem, Kenny. One of the answers that you made earlier seems to be, and Stops pointed it out in a different way, but seems to me to be a complete contradiction. If this God is all-knowing and sent down, presumably wanted his message, I'm assuming, and I'm going to ask it to you in a question format, did this God want his message to be understood by every human on this planet?
Yes. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let me clarify. So anyone who's an atheist, I'm sure they're going to try to question why did God do this and why would God do that and why is there crime and why does little kids get abused?
I'm not even going there yet, but I'm going to ask you my question. Yes, but I'm not even worried about this moment in time.
So
specifically about the book.
So the book,
the Quran.
What about it? Okay, so in regards to the Quran, that's what I was going to get at, which is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, tells us in the Quran that he's created men and the jinn to do nothing but to worship him. And we worship him in various ways, okay? And therefore, it basically boils down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, wanting us to recognize that he exists. He exists in this life, and that and that we basically do nothing in this life without his will, and therefore throughout our lives we're going to be presented with various tests and trials. And part of those tests and trials is, for some people, they may have a child that's born and they're handicapped, or they're deformed or whatever. Someone may be born blind, and on down the line we could give them a million different examples. Hold on. Yeah. So what I'm trying to explain this is, which is that our God, our creator, doesn't need us to all be perfect, because for the ones who are presented with a child that may be blind, or they may be blind themselves, that within itself is a means to draw them to our God, our creator. And let me explain why.
No, can you stop there for a moment? I understand that. I understand you can make the claim about a test, and the people that are not perfect, etc., it's just a test for them, and God is testing them, and they'll get greater glory. I understand that. That's not the question I asked. So let me ask it again, so that we focus on the question I actually asked you, which was not about the suffering of people or the fact that they're you know, that some of them are not perfect. If this message was sent down for all people to understand, I'm not worried about whether they're blind or whatever, then surely everybody can understand it by reading the Quran itself. But when I hear you speak, you say people have to go to university, there's a tafsir, there's this, that, and the other. My question is, I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. I'm not a genius, etc. I should be able to read this Quran and understand it clearly.
Okay, so
that's a problem.
Yeah, I understood your question, and I was actually answering your question by drawing some examples. Okay, and so part of that is, as I mentioned before, because we have varying levels of intellect. Okay, we have varying levels of intellect, and that's by our God, our Creator's design. Okay, so it would be fools to try to question the one who created us. Okay, so plain and simply, let me explain this. And so therefore, because people have varying levels of intellect, some people just simply have a very low reading comprehension, and as I mentioned before, they read something 10 times, they just don't understand it. They just don't understand it. And then you have all kind of variations in between. And you have some people, they read something one time and they got a very good vocabulary and they understand it and they fully absorb what's being said. And therefore, what is the test there? The test is for the one who has trouble understanding, for that person to continue to seek knowledge, and the one who does have the understanding to share the knowledge. And so once again, everything is a test, intertwined. Everything all works together actually beautifully if one opens their mind to understand that. And stop trying to nitpick every little thing and say, well, why does this happen? Why does this happen? Well, if you're questioning why these things take place, we'll look into it more. And actually, I do applaud you for even asking such a question. And those are types of questions that should be asked. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me the ability to answer it in a manner which is understandable, which is that we all have a responsibility to seek knowledge. The very first thing ever revealed in the Quran was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Which means, okay, so that's disrespectful. What I'm trying to tell you is the very first thing ever revealed was Iqra, which is what? Read.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
No, you do not.
But what are you talking about?
You are making stuff up.
No, I am not making stuff up.
Okay, prove
this is links.
The first word that was ever revealed. How do you even plan to verify this?
Oh, very simply. And this is such ignorance that's coming out of your mouth. And this is a prime example of what I'm talking about.
Stop addressing me. Address the point. Show me proof.
Right, exactly. So you be quiet for about 30 seconds, and I'm going to shut you up for sure. Okay, because what I'm telling you is based on what chains of narration of the Quran itself, as well as the Hadith, all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, where he stated in the Hadith, legitimate chains of narration all the way back to the Prophet himself, with no broken chain of narration, and revealed the fact that the angel Gabriel came to him, and the very first words said to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was what? Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
What does that mean? No, I'm not done talking to you. I said 30 seconds.
Yes.
That was about 17.
Do you want to talk for half an hour now? You've just explained it.
No, I said 30 seconds. You gave me 17 seconds. Why did Allah tell us? So you interrupted me a while ago, and so I'd like to go ahead and take this full 30 seconds. So I got 23 more seconds or whatever it is. Okay, here we go. So you ready? So
it's like inheritance laws. 23 plus 17 is 48, right?
Or 30 seconds, whatever. So what I'm trying to tell you is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the very first thing ever revealed was Iqra. Read. What does it mean? It has a dual meaning to it, actually a tri-meaning to it, which is read, recite, and share. It all means the same thing. Well, you may not like it. It may be. It may
not in kindergarten. I know all these fairy tales.
No, well, if you know all these things, then why are you questioning it? And so you know what the Quran addresses.
Let me ask you a question.
The Quran addresses people just like you. You know what it says? Those who claim that they hear, but they do not hear.
Okay.
Those who claim that they hear, but they do not hear. And so if you're telling me that you know this, then how can you say that you know it if you're questioning it? If you know it, then you know it without question. you understand what it means, and that's knowing it. So you hear it, but you don't hear, and you see, but you don't see. Period.
But
Do
Kenny,
you,
yes,
do you
Kenny,
consider the
we
hadiths
can't.
to be really authentic?
If they're legitimate chains of narration, like I mentioned, all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon himself, through Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, absolutely.
Okay,
And
so
are there
you
weak chains of narration? Are there illegitimate hadith? Absolutely. There's actually fabricated hadith, and therefore, what you do with the hadith, if it's an agreement with the Quran, if it's in regards to the principles of the Quran, then you totally accept it.
God, shut up! Can you? Why can't you just answer a question? Yeah,
I did answer your question.
Okay.
I did answer your question.
You consider the hadiths to be authentic? Okay, cool. Now,
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Okay, I'm talking about Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you agree then that Muhammad married a 6-year-old and had sex with a 9-year-old?
I'm not going to get into your straw man fallacies, and I'm not going to, because for one,
fallacy. Do you know what a straw man fallacy is?
I do know what a straw man fallacy is. Do you?
Well, you don't, because you're just telling
Apparently
me
you-
that I'm
no, apparently
quoting
you
from
don't.
the hadith and you're calling it a straw man.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is you're quoting from hadith, and you don't realize the fact that there's some Muslim scholars that believe that Aisha was possibly the age 19. Okay,
I know
there's
that.
various
I know all
opinions on
these
this.
fairy
There's
tales. That's
various
why I
opinions
first
about it.
asked you.
So
if
what
everything that
does
is
an
in Sahih
Islamophobe do?
That's why I
Right.
first asked you whether Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim for you are authentic, and you
Okay, so
said yes. Now you're saying no.
No, I did not say that. Let me explain myself. In regards to Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, it to me doesn't matter if she was 6 years old when he took her as his wife, or if she was 19 years old. What matters to me is when the marriage was consummated. Okay, and so the marriage being consummated is based on her level of maturity. Levels of maturity during that period of time is different than levels of maturity in this period of time. Other
Really?
things,
How do you know
yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Evidence for that being?
If you study this, then you'll understand why I said
I've studied it and I found
I
this to
can't-
be wrong.
If you've studied it and you found it to be wrong, where did you study it? Because earlier, where did you study it at?
It's called a university.
You studied this particular topic about
No,
the
I studied
genetic makeup
biology.
of females. You studied biology. Do you have a degree in biology? And
Yes.
through what university? What
And now
university
what?
is this? What university is this?
Oh my fucking hell.
Well,
Just
it's-
tell me where your evidence is for your claim that girls 1,000 years ago had 10-year difference in menstruation.
I didn't say 10 years difference in menstruation. I didn't. So don't put words in my mouth. What I did say is based on levels of maturity within the individual. The
Okay.
individual has to be mentally, mature, has to be physically mature, and all that amounts to being what spiritually mature.
Okay, was she 9, yes or no?
And I don't know, I wasn't there, and neither was you.
Okay, according to the hadith, Sahih hadith in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, it says yes. And you are saying, well, I say yes, but now I'm saying no. You contradict
say that.
yourself again.
No, I didn't say that. What I told you was it doesn't matter her age.
Okay,
Because
I'm asking you a
for one-
question,
for one-
a fact question.
for one-
Not whether it matters. I'm asking you a fact question. Was she 9, yes or no?
I told you that I can't answer that because I wasn't there.
Okay, another
Well,
question you
thank
can't
you, Dole.
answer. Let me ask you another question that you might not be able to answer. In Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Muhammad encourages his men to rape female captives. Do
No, he
you
doesn't.
think that is a good move?
No, it doesn't. That's a weak chain of narration, and no, it does not.
It's in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.
It's a weak chain of narration, like I mentioned.
It's in
and no, it
Sahih
does not.
Bukhari and
See,
Sahih
this
Muslim.
individual-
So I
remember I
asked you
told-
whether
remember-
everything in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari is authentic. You said yes. Now
I
you're
didn't
saying,
say- I didn't
no.
I didn't tell you everything in each of those books was authentic. Don't put words in my mouth. What I told
That's
you is
exactly what you said.
No, I did not tell you. I didn't use the phrase everything is authentic in those books. I did not say that. Don't put words in my mouth. The vast majority of the authentic chains of narration are in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, period. That's
Okay,
what I said.
So Muhammad had never encouraged his men to rape female captives.
No, he did not.
Okay, even if it says so dozens of times in different Bukhari and Muslim.
There's no oppression in religion.
hadiths.
If it goes against the Quran, absolutely he did not.
Does the Quran say that you are not allowed to rape female captives?
It absolutely is. There's no oppression in religion.
Please tell me the sentence in the Quran.
There's no oppression in religion.
That does not mean that you're not allowed to rape female captives.
Sure it does. If you can't oppress anyone in any regard, then surely rape falls into that category.
Oh, what about the ones who are supposed to be crucified and the hands and feet and opposite sides to be cut off? That doesn't count?
Once again, you're talking about something that you have no knowledge of.
Yeah, you're contradicting yourself once again.
No, I am not. I didn't contradict anything. I just told you that you're talking about a subject. You're talking about a subject you have very limited and very layman.
Hang on. Let me ask you two last questions, okay? If I, for example, take slavery, which is going to a different country, burning down the village, destroying the tribe, killing the men and the boys, keeping only the women, raping the women, taking them back to your country, selling them on the slave market as objects, is that something that fits into the Europe of the 21st century?
I don't know anything about Europe, to be quite honest.
Does it fit into the US of A in the 21st century?
No, but if you're trying to apply that to Islam, then you are trying to utilize
I just asked you a question. Do you think that the slavery I defined fits into the US of A of the 21st century?
Well, of course not.
Okay. Do you think a book that would describe it, if a book were to describe this, would that book fit into the 21st century to the US of A?
And the Quran does not describe that.
I didn't mention the Quran. I said if a book were to do that, would that book fit into the 21st century?
If a book was trying to propagate and promote slavery and raping of women, of course it wouldn't fit. It doesn't fit in any century.
I didn't say that. I asked if the slavery I just defined is described in a book, would that book fit into the US of A in the 21st century?
Oh, is that what you asked?
That's what I asked.
Kenny, we can't hear you. Are you there? Hello?
He's gone.
No, he's rejoined with another account, I think.
No, it's the same what happened to me just now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got kicked out. Repeat your question, because a maid was trying to come in my door. Maybe I didn't understand your question. So repeat your question again. What did you say?
The question is very simple. If all right, do you remember how I defined slavery?
No, good. Repeat. Literally trying to. I have the door locked, and she was still trying to come in. But go ahead. It's just a reality. Go ahead.
Do you remember how I defined slavery?
No, and I've already answered that. So repeat your statement.
Okay, slavery is if you go to a different country, you burn down the village, you kill everybody in the tribe except some young women, you bring them back to your country, raping them on the way a couple of times, and then you sell them on the local slave market as objects. That is what I call slavery, okay? And the question that I asked, if a book were to propagate this, would that book fit into 21st century US?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat again that the Quran does not suggest any of that stuff that you just mentioned. So if you're trying to create a straw man fallacy, once again,
I'm not trying to create a straw man. Asking a normal question.
Obviously, the book, the principles behind that book, no, that wouldn't be good if it's promoting that type of activity. No,
thank you.
The Quran doesn't fall into that category. So let's clarify that the Quran does not fall into that category. Period. And you could try to twist and turn that and try to, instead of critiquing, and try to attack any way that you possibly think you can. But the truth shines bright. That's just the fact of the matter. The Quran doesn't say anything that you just said.
Can I just change the subject slightly here?
Sure.
Is that okay, Stops?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. just to get some more background, Kenny, can you just tell us more about yourself? Like, you keep mentioning this university and that, and you're an imam. Can you just tell us more about yourself? Just so we got some background.
Sure. So initially, my first exposure to Islam was through members of what is called the Nation of Islam, which is, of course, the organization of Farrakhan and Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad. And this came about because I was actually, as a child, I was actually abandoned as a child. I grew up in what's called a youth home, and while I was there, I got involved in the music business. Actually signed a record deal, and my partner that was in the group with me was actually one of the coaches at the high school that I played football at, and also a history teacher there. And we began to record our first album. We signed a deal, and during that period of time, he became a member of the Nation of Islam. I didn't know anything about Islam. When I was at the youth home, growing up at the youth home, I got put in there when I was about 10, almost 11 years old. I got out when I was 18, and the people there were very, very Christian people. I love these people immensely, have great respect for these people. I love these people. And of course, we went to an Assemblies of God church, which is Pentecostals. And so I had no inkling of any idea what Islam was about or anything like that until my partner in the music business became a member of the Nation of Islam. And he would tell me a little bit about it. The Nation of Islam is more of a pro-Black organization, and I totally respect their efforts and all that. But my exposure to Islam was through them, but also going to the studio one evening. His Quran was actually between us in the vehicle, and I picked it up and I read Surah Al-Fatiha, which is the opening of the Quran, the first surah of the Quran, and I began to read Al-Baqarah, which is the second surah of the Quran, and it was like a light switch turned on for me at that point. Everything that I naturally felt was within this book, and so that's how I was exposed to Islam. And by the age of 20, I had done Shahada, and I lived majority of my life still dealing with music.
What about, like, I want to come back to that Shahada bit, but what about this university? Can you just give us a brief sort of background to this university that you keep mentioning?
What about it?
Like, I've never heard of a university that teaches Islam, so I'm basically asking.
There's a bunch of them. It's Mishka University. You could look it up. It's Mishka University in Florida.
So does this university just teach Islam, or is this one subject there?
It's all about Islam. All about Islam.
And is it Sunni, or is there a certain sort of like following that have?
Yeah. So as far as Muslims go, depending on where you live in this world, there might be some differences. People are going to be people. People are going to have disagreements. People are going to have arguments, whatever the case might be. But through the university, we're sticking to Islamic jurisprudence. So it does away with any particular denominations or groups or sects or anything like that.
Well, that's pretty cool. That is really cool. So, and again, I'm not having a jibe at you, right? Seriously, right? Sure. I'm really on level with you. But what would your opinion or your university's opinion be on MDias? You know who they are? On
what now?
The MDiA. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The MDs.
No, brother, I don't know who that is.
You don't know who they are. Stops. Can you give us a bit of background on them?
You might have stepped away. Where are we going now? Because I feel like we're all over the show here.
All right, sorry.
Not sort of sticking on a particular topic. So everybody's asking Kenny, which is great, but we're all over the show here. So
sure.
I kind of stick on something. So what's your point there, G?
So, sorry, let me go back to the other bit I want to go to. So, someone like myself, I didn't have the choice of doing the Shahada. So, I was born Muslim, yeah? So, when I was born in the hospital, my father must have done the azan in my ear, and that's me Muslim. So, do you think those apostasy rules still apply to someone like me, whereas yourself, who fully able took your Shahada, and then if you were to now leave, would that be a difference in what you believe in the apostasy rules?
Yeah, there is apostasy. Once again, it only applies if the Muslims are actually in war. And so that's just the fact of the matter. So you consider anyone who's left Islam. There's a lot of people who have left Islam. Okay, even though it's the fastest growing religion in the world, there's people who leave Islam, and these people aren't being attacked. These people aren't being killed for leaving Islam. And if that does happen, I'm not saying that's never happened, but what I'm saying is if that does happen, that's happening because individuals simply, if they're trying to base killing someone on claiming that Islam led them to do that, or Islam taught them to do that, they're sadly mistaken, grossly mistaken, because there's stipulations behind it. And the main two stipulations are that you have to be in wartime, and the person has to have left the ranks of the Muslim, literal ranks of the Muslim, not the group of the Muslims, but the ranks of the Muslim, and have to be giving secrets about Islam or the position of the Muslims and things of that nature. And the third stipulation is that they have to be overheard by the Muslims doing that. So there's no compulsion in religion. And I equate this, I talk about this quite a bit. I talk about this in my book, which is that if you equate this to someone, if you're a coach on any sports team, okay, any sports team of your choice, and you have a player that you're trying to force to play, but that player not only does not want to play on your team, he doesn't want to play at all. He doesn't even like the game. What good does it do you to try to force that person to be a part of your group? It's ridiculous. You're better off letting that person go, let them do their own thing, and don't try to force them to do anything. Certainly don't try to force them on your team, because their principles and their principles behind what you're trying to achieve just isn't there. And what's it going to do? It's going to affect everyone else on the team. And so it's the same thing, even more so in regards to religion. You don't want someone who is not going to be the best of examples, and then therefore that doesn't mean you shun anyone, but the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, says in the hadith that a Muslim should be a mirror to his brother, meaning that we should try to present ourselves every single day, despite if we're around believers or non-believers, try to carry ourselves in the most respectful of manners, and don't oppress anyone, don't harm anyone, be helpful, give to charity, and do all those things. And you certainly don't want someone whose heart's not in it. And
Kenny, it seems like, because I'm assuming you're, been in Islam for a while now. So are you in your 40s, 30s, or 40s now?
I'm 47.
Okay, so you're in your 40s now. So in all that time from when you were 20, when you took the Shahada, till now, so that's just less than 20 years, have you tried to, and again, not being facetious, but have you tried to study any other religion, like Sikhism?
Yes.
All right, so you have. Okay, so what were your thoughts on them then?
Well, Christianity, not Sikhism or Hinduism, anything like that, but I'm a student of comparative religion in regards to Christianity. I talk about Christianity quite a bit in the book as well. And so I primarily, I study literally, I study Christianity and Islam nearly on a daily basis from different aspects. And I try to find the comparisons, the agreements, and I find the areas in which there's disagreements, and try to, when I engage with Christians in particular, try to present to them questions to provoke thought, which is the same thing that the Qur'an does for anyone who reads it. It draws attention to different things in nature and asks different questions, all for the purpose of causing us to ponder and to think and to reflect. And so when I engage with Christians, I try to do the same thing, and I try to do the same thing with anyone that I encounter.
No, I understand. So obviously, like, have you tried to think that maybe there is another religion that might be the right one, but you've not studied it yet? Does that ever cross your mind?
Well, the only one that I've studied immensely and have had a lot of experience in firsthand, personally, been to many churches, have a lot of people that are friends of mine, family members that are Christians. I have a lot of knowledge about Christianity. I've studied the history of Christianity itself and the Bible. I can tell you a lot about Christianity.
No, but my sort of thing was that you would not be like a little voice in the back of your mind sort of saying, oh, maybe there is another, just the way you found Islam.
No,
maybe there's another.
Guys, stop for a minute. I appreciate your interactions there as well, G. Kenny's come on here. he came here originally to come and tell us where we were wrong. I'm listening here attentively, and I haven't heard where we're wrong. What I have heard Kenny repeat multiple times is that you've got to go and study at a university, and it's all a fact. Whatever the university said is clearly true, and anything that when you don't go to, quote unquote, whoever decides who the established places are, if you don't go there, then obviously you're attacking Islam and you're getting your information incorrect. And when we're asking you, Kenny, for actual data or specifics, I haven't heard it. So I have had you repeat that, but you came on specifically to tell us where we're wrong, and so far I haven't heard that.
Okay, well, I've told you where you're wrong in regards to apostasy, plain and simply. Okay, I've told you I've studied the jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence regarding apostasy. I've told you where I've studied it at Michigan University.
Okay, so
I've studied. Matter of fact, I suggest if you want to study it yourself, then study Analytical Tafsir 2 at Michigan University, and it covers this very thing that we're talking about. So I've given you a legitimate source. Let me finish talking. I don't.
No, because you're waffling. You're always explaining for half an hour. Apostasy, right. You made a claim. You said you have shown us where we are wrong on apostasy.
Right. I have showed you where you're wrong. Now it's up to you. If you doubt what I'm telling you, then go ahead and study it and look into it. If you can prove that I'm wrong, we'll do it. I'll come on next week. I'll give you a whole. I'll give you. You've looked at it where?
Look at the hadith.
Facebook.
Does it say
you've looked at it on Facebook?
Yes or no?
Okay, in the hadith that you're looking at, does it have a verified, legitimate, strong chain of narration?
Both the Isnad and the contents are claimed to be authentic by Islamic scholars. Yes.
What we can do, you and I, if you want to debate me about this particular topic, then you come with your source. You come with your sources, and I'll come with my proofs.
I have the hadith, authentic hadith. It says
which ones? Which ones? Name it. Read it.
Do you want me to look it up quickly?
What's the chain of narration? In order to quote the hadith, you have to give the source. You have to give the chain of narration, and is it legitimate?
Kenny,
that's plain and simple. That's plain and simple. That's jurisprudence.
What if I can? What if I can? Then what?
If you can, then you meet me back here next week at same time, same place, and we'll talk about it.
And then what? Then you're going to accept what Muhammad said, go ahead and rape female captives, go ahead and kill.
No, what we're going to do,
you will accept this if I give you those Isnad?
No, I'm not going to accept any of that because none of that happened. And so if you want to debate this, hey, if you want to debate this, I could write a story about you robbing the bank down the street, and I could get 3 or 4 other people to write the same story, and it may be a little bit different. And does that mean that you robbed the bank down the street? Absolutely not. If you want to debate me about this, I'm challenging you to a debate right now. If you want to show and prove, let's get busy.
Let's go. We're doing it now. I'm asking you questions and you can't answer a single question.
Because I don't know what hadith you're talking about. You haven't showed me the hadith. I haven't looked into the hadith to verify if it's got a legitimate chain of narration. I told you that it's got to be a strong chain of narration. It's got to be a legitimate hadith and it's accepted by the scholars. It's got to fall under jurisprudence. There's rules of engagement, and therefore, if you want to debate me, you bring that and let's do it.
You just told me I will bring this, and then you're not going to accept it.
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth.
You just told me.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the opportunity to show and prove. Okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity to prove yourself. If you would like to do so,
I'm going to give you the Qur'an.
Do you want to debate me on this particular subject? I would love to. Would you like to do that?
On what particular subject?
This claim that you're making about people being raped and pillaged, and it being somehow in agreement with the hadith and the Quran, and you're attacking Islam in the process. So
I'm not attacking Islam. I am just quoting.
You are attacking Islam. What you're quoting. What I'm trying to tell you, I've already told you, is plain and simple. There's legitimate and strong chains of narration in the hadith, and there's weak chains of narration in the hadith. There's actually some hadith that have been fabricated, that aren't real at all, that are written by known liars. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
No, I don't understand what you're telling me. I'm stupid. Exactly. See, I don't understand these things.
Right. Okay. So obviously, so if I was to write a story about you right now robbing the bank, I would be lying in that story, right? That's the same thing that has happened in some of the hadith, the unauthentic hadith that have a weak chain of narration written by known liars. So not knowing what hadith, what numbers, and all those things that I would need to look into, prove your source, and then
Okay, I
next
will do
week,
that. Okay, fine.
next week,
Okay.
next week, I'll come on and we'll get busy.
And then I will show you a complete chain of narrators, and I will show you how many scholars have deemed this to be authentic, how many times it's been accepted, and then what's going to happen then.
Okay, you make all the claims that you can right now, but
No,
until we
not
see
claims.
that,
I'm going to show you.
until we see it, and when you show it to me, then we'll take it to the next stage.
What is the next stage?
Well, you're going to be proven wrong if
how can you prove me wrong if you've told me, if I bring you a white piece of paper, I bring you a white piece of paper, and then you say, yes, it's a white piece of paper, but now it's wrong.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to look into the sources that you provide. So what happens in a debate? Have you ever engaged in a debate before?
No, I'm stupid.
Right. Okay, well, that's you saying that. So I'm going to, whatever. So if you've engaged in a debate, then we have a particular topic, and you let me know what your topic is concerning and what subject matter you're going to cover, and I'm going to rebuttal that. I'm going to rebut that. Okay.
The easiest topic that I can think of that everybody
I challenge you once again to a legitimate debate. We're not going to talk.
The easiest topic. Okay, can I have like 15 seconds?
Sure, go ahead.
Without you interrupting, 15 seconds. The easiest topic that everybody can talk about, that everybody can participate in, that is very easy to research, that everybody can look into within a couple of seconds, is chapter 4, and it is sentence number 11, 12, and 176. Show me how inheritance is correct. Finished.
Plain and simply, women get less in inheritance.
No, next week. You said you need to prepare this. Next week.
No, I could tell you this answer right now. But if you want to wait till next week, then next week I'm going to shut you down next week.
Okay,
and when I shut you down, I want you to get a T-shirt with my picture on it, and you got to wear it on the following show. How about that?
I will do that. If you shut me down,
all right. I'm going to shut you down next week.
I will do that.
Is that what the Quran says? Or are you supposed to be delivering this in a mild and nice way?
The thing is,
straying from the Quran now?
No, what I'm going to do is I have every right that when someone is distorting the truth, I have every right to meet that with the same aggression.
Is that
never become the aggressor?
So to speak, you want to meet it at whatever level you think it's coming in at. Is that the way?
Yeah, but to never become the aggressor. You understand what I'm saying by that? He's cussed me. He's cussed me. I haven't cussed him. He's cussed in the conversation. He can cuss me. I'm not going to cuss him. But I'm telling you, I haven't said anything disrespectful to him. Haven't insulted him in any way. What I have done is challenge him to a legitimate debate, to where he has every opportunity to have a period of time to talk and say whatever he thinks he wants to say. And then I'm going to do the same thing.
And he's brought this up. I've researched this as well. Okay, this is a legitimate mathematical error in the Quran. Okay, there's no way to dance around this. I've researched it. He's done it. Both looked at it.
Okay, so next week.
Okay, fair enough. Kenny, are you unable to do it now? If you're unable to, then fine.
I don't want to do it right now. My mouth is dry, and I don't want to do it right now. But next week we'll get busy.
Okay, another question from the chat. I'm being asked to ask you something. Do you think that, for example, you've mentioned this description of nature in the Quran, that this is correct? Like, for example, mountains. If it says mountains are pegs and that they are put on top of the earth and they are stopping earthquakes and things like that, do you think that is accurate?
Absolutely do. And I'm going to base that on a book that I actually have in my hand right now by Alhamdulillah. And it's actually a book that covers a variety of different scientific miracles in the Quran.
Please tell me it's bouquet.
It's what?
Please tell me it's bouquet.
It's bouquet?
Yes.
No.
Okay, what is the book?
It's called A Brief Illustrated Guide to Understanding Islam.
Oh.
And it's a simple book. I have this book to give to people when I'm doing dawah. But in this book, it talks about scientific miracles in the Quran, and it's actually got references.
Oh, come on, really?
Hold on.
You believe this?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh boy, you believe all this shit with embryology and come on. You
in regards to embryology, I would suggest that you pick up a book by Dr. Keith Moore and study his findings.
Developing Human, the 3rd edition, you mean?
Yes, absolutely. Have you read it?
With Islamic editions by Sheikh Azindani?
Have you read it?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, Kenny, I've told you.
Were you one that hears without hearing and one that sees without seeing? It's not a question that you're certainly one that would be laughing and trying to simply I don't know even who I'm talking to, and I don't know what your belief is.
It doesn't matter.
But obviously it does matter, because obviously you're one who does not believe in a creator, because why? You see yourself as self-sufficient, as though you have a purpose in this life.
Stop preaching.
Well, I'm just telling you the facts.
No, you're not telling me the facts. You're lying.
You see yourself as self-sufficient, right? You don't need a creator. You don't have to answer to anyone. And therefore,
we just need plants. We don't need a creator. The plants give us oxygen and carbohydrate. We don't need a creator, just plants.
Okay, and the one who actually provided those for you.
Okay, I think again we're going all over the show.
Yes, absolutely, because this is unbelievable. How can anybody today in the 21st century, in 2018, still come to me with Keith L. Moore? Really? I mean, that's outrageous.
That's refuted such a lot. I mean, I'm surprised. You talk about doing your research. It sounds like you've never heard any rebuttals against Keith Moore. I mean, that's been utterly rebutted. He didn't, as far as I can remember, he didn't even become a Muslim. So,
and he rebutted himself. It's only the 3rd edition that was modified by a Muslim in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way until I've got the 8th edition here, but all the way until the 10th edition. He says the Quran is just a collection of myths, along with what the Babylonians and the Greeks say. That's all he says. So you have 3 sentences about the Quran in the entire book, The Developing Human. He refuted himself because it's only the 3rd edition, which you can't buy anywhere. It's only available in Islamic bookstores. It's not available anywhere else. And then somebody here, I mean, you must be a real idiotic, ignorant guy to come with to this show and tell me about Keith L. Moore.
Where did you get it, and what are your credentials in regards to Keith L. Moore? And where'd you get the book?
It doesn't matter what my credentials are.
Where did you get the book? Is the last thing I asked you. Where did you get the book?
I just told you I lived in the Middle East.
So you have Keith Moore's book.
No, I don't have Keith Moore's
That's what book. That's what I thought. So you haven't read the book.
I have the book here.
You have it where?
Here in front of me.
Well, I just asked you, where did you get the book? Where did you buy the book?
Amazon? Hang on, what are we talking about? I'm talking about the 3rd edition. I'm talking about the red book.
I'm asking you, it doesn't matter which book it is. I'm asking you, where did you?
No, it does matter, because there are huge differences. In the 3rd edition, which is enhanced by Azindani, which is totally different to all the other editions that he has.
Which editions do you have?
The 8th edition.
The 8th edition. Do you have the other editions? And have you read them?
I have not read them. I only have the 8th edition here. I have it in front of me.
Right.
Here, the Developing Clinical 8th edition. What do you want to know? Introduction to the human development is a continuous process that begins with an oocyte of the ovum, for example, which he mentions here, is not mentioned in the Quran. From a female which is fertilized, fertilization, not mentioned in the Quran, by a spermatozoon from a male, not mentioned in the Quran. Cell division, cell migration, programmed cell death, differentiation, growth, and cell rearrangement transform the fertilized oocyte, a highly specialized totipotent cell, a zygote, not mentioned in the Quran, into a multicellular human being. Although most developmental changes occur during the embryonic and fetal. I mean, I can read it. I have it in front of me.
Right. Let me ask you this: does it say anything about the construction of buildings in the Quran, or how to make a cell phone in the Quran, or in that book? Does it?
This is about the developing human.
What I'm telling you is it doesn't. All those things don't have to be mentioned in the Quran. The Quran makes mention of the embryo in 4 different places,
and they're all wrong.
No, they weren't wrong. They were actually.
I just showed you that they're wrong.
Accurate. The mere fact, no, you didn't. You told me some stuff that wasn't in the Quran. Okay, but the stuff that is in the Quran is actually confirmed by science. And who?
Okay, one fact. Give me one.
Guess
one.
what?
Just one.
Keith Elmore. The embryo is confirmed by science.
Okay, give me one. Give me one thing that is mentioned in the Quran that is correct. One.
There's a bunch of them.
No, one. I just want one.
Okay, the embryos, bodies of water that do not transgress one another.
One. Just give me one.
The weight of clouds. What are you asking me? I'm telling you.
I am asking for one fact that is in the Quran that is correct.
Right. So, in regards to the science of the Quran, no one in over 1,400 years has proved the Quran to have one flaw, one mistake, or
I just showed you.
No, you have not.
I just showed you.
Let me ask you something.
The Quran is completely wrong.
On May 18, 2018, you finally have proved the Quran wrong. Where's your book? And where you really?
My book is on the book. It doesn't fucking matter. Give me one thing that is correct.
About the mountains. Everything's correct.
Okay, give me one. I can't. One statement. Just one. I'm just asking. Come on. I've got tears in my eyes. Give me one thing that is correct in the Quran. One.
Everything's correct in the Quran.
Just give me one. Yes, I can't believe it. You're all over the show. You're saying the science has confirmed everything is right, but you can't give me one.
I'm going to repeat.
No, don't repeat. Give me one example. Just one.
Can he choose
what is said about the mountains is correct. What's said about the way?
Give me one sentence that it's correct. Just one sentence in the Quran.
Kenny, there seems to be a communication error here. Stops us asking for one single claim that is correct. Can you read one from the Quran, like a verse from the Quran that you believe is scientifically accurate that we can then look at?
Okay, bear with me 1 second. All right.
Just a side note.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So it says in Surah 41, verse 11, it says, "Then he turned to the heaven when it was smoke," and that's a proven fact. And
that's totally wrong.
No, it was not. No, it's not wrong. Let me go ahead and expound upon this. It says,
what is the verse again, Kenny? What is the verse? Look it up.
41:11. The origin of the universe, the science of modern cosmology, observational of theoretical clearly clearly indicates that at one point in time the whole universe was nothing but a cloud of smoke.
Oh, that's wrong.
An opaque, highly dense and hot gaseous composition. No, this is one of the.
That is wrong. Everything there is wrong.
Okay, well let me keep reading because I'm going to give you the source and the reference. You ready? It says
number one.
Let me finish.
What does the sentence in front of it say?
Let me finish.
Kenny, what does it say before that?
Let me finish.
Let me show you very quickly how it's wrong.
Let me finish. It says this is one of the undisputed principles of standard modern cosmology. It says scientists now can observe new stars forming out of the remnants of that smoke.
That's wrong.
The illuminating stars we see at night were just as the whole universe in that smoke material. It says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordained in the Quran that he had turned to the heaven when it was smoke. Because of the earth and the heavens above, the sun and the moon.
Don't read the whole book. Well, Kenny, why can't you just read the sentence before that?
Before what? Before what? In the Quran?
Yes.
You read it.
Do you indeed disbelieve in he who created the earth in 2 days and attribute to him equals? That is the Lord of the worlds. So in other words, we're talking about the earth which was created, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then it says, and he placed there on the earth firmly set mountains over it. Oh shit, I'm in the wrong thing. Shit.
Right.
So we're talking about the earth. And then he says, and then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke.
Right.
So earth was already formed. And then it says, while it was smoke, and he says to the earth, come willingly or by compulsion. And they said, we come willingly. Can you show me a textbook in cosmology, in geology or something where the earth talks?
No, but what I'm going to do, watch this. It says, because the earth and the heavens above have been formed from that same smoke, we conclude that the earth and the heavens were one connected entity. Now listen what it says. Then out of that homogeneous smoke, they formed and separated from each other. And it
Do you know what smoke is? Do you know what smoke is?
It says, Allah in the Quran says, have not those who disbelieved known that the heavens and the earth were one connected entity, and then we separated them?
They were not. This is also wrong.
Prove it.
It's how can
I'll tell you what,
that is false.
Then you debate with Dr. Alfred Kroner, who's one of the world's renowned geologists, about this.
And he says this.
He's a professor of geology and
yes, I know. I spoke to him.
Right, Department of Geology at the Institute of.
He's in Mainz. He's at the University of Mainz. I know him. I spoke to him.
Right. Okay. And he said, this is a quote, thinking where Muhammad came from, I think it is most impossible that he could have known about these things like the common origin of the universe, because scientists.
Exactly. It's impossible that he knew this.
Right, because scientists have only found out within the last few years with a very complicated and advanced technological methods that this is the case.
Yes,
and so
this is what he said. He said it's impossible for Muhammad to know this, which is correct.
Right. So
that's why Muhammad.
I know what you're trying to. I know what you're trying to say in your sarcasm, but I totally disagree.
No,
also,
I'm just looking at facts. Okay, listen. What is smoke? Do you know what smoke is?
The Dr. Alfred Kroner goes on to say,
it doesn't matter what he says. What is smoke? No, I don't care what Alfred says. Give me.
Right. That's the point. That's my point right there. That's my point. It doesn't matter what the truth is. You don't care.
No,
you're going to argue. You know, that's the point. That's the point. Thank you. Thank you. I'm done with it, because that's the point. You don't care because when the truth is staring you in the face, you hear but you don't hear, and you see but you don't see.
He did not say what you say he says.
I just read it quote for quote. This is Dr. Alfred Kroner.
He said it's impossible.
No, he didn't say right. He said it's impossible that a man that would have. You understand the context of what he said? He said he's saying that it's impossible that a man could know this.
Yes.
Therefore, right, a man couldn't know this, but our God, our Creator, that gave him this revelation, knew it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings, was only repeating what he heard. He was unlearned. He couldn't read or write, so he was only repeating. He was only repeating what was revealed to him through the angel Gabriel. That's just a fact. For one, I'm a grown man. You don't tell me to shut up.
I'm telling you to shut up.
No, you don't tell me to shut up.
On my tits, because what you are doing is you're just carrying on and on and on about what somebody else is.
What I'm telling you is stuff that you don't want to hear. You
are not telling me stuff I don't want to hear. You're talking rubbish.
I'm telling you what you don't want to hear. I'm making you look like a fool in the process, because what it boils down to is you don't want to know the truth. And
give me the truth. Okay, tell me what smoke is. What is smoke? Tell me what smoke is.
Dr. Alfred Kroner, the book that I'm holding in my hand, he can tell you what smoke is. I suggest you pick up any writings.
Show me where he says what smoke is.
About this information, and he'll give you the information. I've given you a source. I've read a couple of quotes that he's given, and you're trying to take what he said out of context. He's trying to say that a mere man could not know this. Only our God, our Creator. Right. A man didn't know this. But the fact that he revealed this, that it was revealed in the Quran over 1,400 years ago, before modern technology could prove it.
What is it?
Proof of the fact.
What is it?
About the gaseous state of the universe.
Where does it say gaseous state of the universe?
Dr. Alfred Koner. I've given you a source.
In the Quran, where does the Quran talk about the gaseous state of the universe?
Oh my goodness gracious! Apparently, you don't hear very well.
Where does the Quran talk about the gaseous state of the universe?
I already gave you the verse. I gave you the surah and the
It
verse.
doesn't say gaseous state, it says
11.
smoke.
Right,
It says
that's
smoke.
Smoke. What is smoke? It's inevitably gas, right?
No, that is wrong. You see, this is wrong.
Hold on. What's not wrong is this is just a translation of what's said. Another translation may say something different.
Yeah, but Kenny, we can't rely on what other translations say. You said
what I'm saying is that because whoever translated this particular verse, if they chose to use the word smoke versus the word gas, then that's their mistake.
What is Dukan?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, so you don't speak Arabic?
I don't know what that word is. I speak Arabic. You want to hear me speak Arabic?
It's the Arabic for smoke.
Kenny, there's the word smoke. Can you see it there's the word smoke. There's the word smoke. These are three of the most well-known translations. We're on Quran X here. All three of them.
Click on roots.
Okay, so what you're doing is nitpicking, because what is smoke inevitably? It's a gaseous material. Hold on. What comes out of what comes out of your exhaust system? You see it as smoke, right? But inevitably, it's a gaseous material, right?
That's
same thing.
Incorrect.
No, it's not. It's not.
It is, because it contains particles.
Smoke
it contains particles. Right, and so I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to debate with you about
that. That's very obvious. But what you are doing is you're making.
But as a matter of fact, you're not a scientist.
Well, I am. I have 2 degrees, which say the opposite.
You have 2 degrees from what university?
Who the fuck cares? Tell me what smoke is and show me somebody who says smoke.
All I want to, I'll take what you're saying to heart if you tell me what university. That's simple.
Why?
What does it matter? Why would you not tell?
What does it matter exactly? Right. Why are you asking?
Because it's plain and simple. If you're going to make a claim, I want you to prove your claim.
No, your claim is that it's accurate.
Right now, I don't believe you. I don't believe you've gone to a university, and I don't believe you have any degrees in this field.
Okay, I don't have any degrees. You said that the Quran is accurate.
So everything that you're saying is illegitimate, because
you said that the Quran is accurate. You said that the Quran is accurate. You said the Quran is accurate.
Absolutely. I don't have to prove it. It proves itself.
Okay, so you can't prove it. So you first say you believe in scientific miracles because it's accurate on a scientific level. Then when I show you smoke is not scientifically accurate, it is a mistake in the Quran. Then you say, well, I don't have to explain anything.
It's not a mistake in the Quran. Your understanding of what smoke is may be the issue, because I don't believe that you've gone to a university and have studied.
Kenny, you don't need to go to university to know that smoke is particulate. Gas is not. You don't need to go to university to know that. Forget the university line. Grow up.
Don't speak to me disrespectfully. Okay?
Well, you pay a bit of respect. You're showing very little respect. You're showing very little respect.
No, what I'm doing is I'm defending Islam against Islamophobes and those who attack Islam. You are, because you do this day in.
Calm down, Kenny.
We're done. I've ejected him. We're done.
I think we're done, yes.
This is very unproductive. I've been sitting here pulling my hair out. We're getting nowhere here at all. We're done. That's it. Can you bring up, I've actually lost the will now. Can you bring up a here? We're done for the night.
It was fun, though.
An utter waste of my time here. Please bring up a hadith here so that we can finish off here. I have a debate with him on your channel, but this is just too painful to live with now. Can you do us a hadith there, and we'll finish off. If you want to go to an after show, you can, but I've had it now. This has been a shouting match, people shouting over each other. I can't hear a damn thing that's going on here. This guy just keeps going on and on and on, and we're done now.
Okay, embryology. No, I'm not going to do embryology. Yes, I am. All right. Narrated Anas bin Malik, the Prophet said, Allah puts an angel in charge of the uterus, and the angel says, "Oh Lord, it is semen. Oh Lord, it is a clot. Oh Lord, it is a piece of flesh." And then, if Allah wishes to complete its creation, the angel asks, "Oh Lord, will it be a male or a female?" This is Sahih Bukhari 877 594, Sahih Bukhari 455 550, and Sahih Muslim 336397.
Cool. Thank you very much. Do you guys want to do an after show?
Not for me.
No, I'm gonna call it a night.
Okay. Good. Okay. I want to thank my panelists. I want to thank you guys for viewing, and hopefully we will be back next Friday if I am recovered enough. Thank you all.
From your fruit juice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, Rob.
Night,
Cheers.
guys.